All right, Stephen, what do you want to learn? Michael, what do you want to learn today?
Today's topic was supposed to be law of attraction. Right?
Law of attraction stuff, yeah. What do you want to learn? What do you want to know?
How to, I don't know, I'm fairly comfortable with the subject, but I guess I could use more clarity on how to create more of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So, kind of like the psycho-cybernetics. Unconscious mind gives you like direction on stuff, so you give yourself a goal, and then listen to your unconscious mind as it points you in directions to achieve that. Something like that. But I think that just basically encompasses the law of attraction.
Well, there's a lot of things that are going to encompass the law of attraction. So you have to really, again, one of the problems that we have when we start talking about law of attraction.
Hello.
Hello, come on in. Hi. Did you sign in?
I did sign in.
Okay, did you get your candy? Did you get your coffee? You got your coffee.
I got coffee.
There's lots of candy over there. Help yourself, because I also do weight loss.
What suite exactly is this room?
This is Suite 329. 326 is right across the street.
Okay, because the meetup that I'm normally in gave directions to Suite 300, so
Yee.
I went that way.
Oh, you're from Troy's group?
Yes.
Okay, well, you get the front row.
I know you too.
Yeah, I actually did this as a favor to Troy.
I know. So you know what? I am going to warn the ladies.
Okay,
down the
yeah,
hall,
okay.
Send them this way.
And also, if you know anybody who might be arriving late, these elevators stop running at 8 o'clock.
Oh.
So,
okay. That's good to know.
Yeah.
You don't want to be in the elevator when it's done.
But, you can go down, but you can't come back up. Yeah. They've thought that far enough ahead.
Anybody special?
Does that make sense?
What? Well, seeing as how pretty much everything we do is a self-fulfilling prophecy, it's really not saying a whole lot. Right, but that's, come on in, sign in guys. Troy, how you doing, brother?
I'm Jesse.
Nice to meet you, Jesse, welcome. I remember you. You're stalking me now.
Well, I'm gonna coming back. Yeah, I invite my
Good.
friend.
I was thinking about you today.
Okay, more of them.
Yeah, Troy, right? Yeah. How's it going?
I'm going back in December.
Good to see you.
That might change.
Good to see you. Good to see you too, man. Yeah, absolutely.
You?
Yeah, it was actually nice to meet you. Yeah.
If I come back,
Yeah,
back, I'm
yeah.
here.
How are you?
Really? Or he is it? I don't know. He might be there. I don't know.
I was one of the most terrified persons speaking at that event in Encinitas.
What's up, brother?
How you doing, man?
Oh, yes.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Yes. Yes.
How to create a self-fulfilling
Very
prophecy.
kind of me. You were an awesome speaker.
Ronnie, what do you want to learn tonight?
Yes. And I
Yeah,
just
what
do
you
it,
gonna
so
do?
you know. There you go.
Networking, small groups, going to seminars,
Yeah.
listening to David.
You gotta
Yep.
be able to laugh at yourself.
Trying to figure
Ronnie.
out passwords to stuff.
What do you want to learn tonight?
I like it.
What do you want to play with? Nobody's listening to me.
How's that going? It's good. Yeah, it's good.
Come on in. All right. So we'll go around. Like I said, this place will probably fill up really fast. Usually, when I create an event, which we have about 10 minutes, and we're already half full, which is ominous. Well, we usually, historically, for this location, we usually get about 1/3 to 2/3 on a good day because of the location and the time slot. In our other location, we usually are rock solid at 2/3 and above of whoever RSVPs signs up. I think my staff actually ran a little short on chairs today, and I think they shorted us on chairs, so hopefully, I'm not actually praying for less people to show up, but I just want to make sure that everybody has a place to sit, and we'll work around it if for some reason we get too full. Why are you all sitting in the back? All the good stuff happens up front. She knows that.
That's why she's not here.
Right. So my question is, and again, like anytime I have anytime I have an opportunity to dialogue with the audience before the actual event starts, what do you want to learn today? I asked Michael, and he said how to create a more self-fulfilling prophecy, and we drilled down a little bit on that. But Ronnie, what would you like to learn? What would you like to cover? What's kind of the thing that really kind of motivated you to come out? There we go, one brave soul. All Oh, she's going to sit there. All right. I'll just take the front row and move it to the back. I don't have a problem. I did that in Israel.
I'm short and I'm someone tall about.
All the people in Israel came in a group and they all sat in the last 3 rows. So I looked at them, I said, you know, I always call on the people in the back row, and they all got up as a unit and moved to the front 3 rows. Right.
I don't know how to answer that.
Okay. How about you?
I just came because
Because of her?
something because of law of attraction.
Law of attraction, right
And
on.
I've seen the NLP thing and hypnosis, and so I'm
You don't believe in that shit, do you?
learning all that shit.
How about you, ma'am? What's your name again?
Sequita.
Sequita. I love that name.
Yeah, thank you.
I will remember that name for about a minute and a half, but that's all right.
I'll give you another name if you could forget that.
No, Sequita's
Okay.
fine.
Repeat your question.
What would you like to learn tonight? If, of all the things on the meetup that actually, those of you who actually read the description, you know, if you could come away with one thing that was worth, you know, the price of admission, right? Or 10 times the price of admission. If you came away with that one thing, it would be an entirely, you know, you feel your time would be really, really well spent. What would that have been?
Some little key.
Some little key.
Key of knowledge. Some little piece of knowledge that will intrigue me.
That will intrigue you.
Yeah.
Oh, I can intrigue you.
Okay.
All right. Now if I can just spell knowledge, we'll see how that works out.
Do you have a
I'll
certain
put
type
an
of
L
lock?
in it.
Do you have a certain type of lock that you're
Well,
looking
I don't know
to?
about the lock and the key fitting, but just the, you know, it could be a ghost key, but it's just some little...
You mean a bump key?
Yeah.
To open every single door.
I'll give you that. Actually, I gave that to people at the last meetup.
Very cool.
Oh.
Did we get one?
Yeah, I did. You've been to 2 of them where I've taught the exact same thing. You missed it twice? Okay. You, sir. How about you?
I guess productivity.
Productivity? In any particular context?
I guess mostly work. I'm always trying to increase productivity in work.
Okay.
So I guess anywhere. It can be anything I'm doing but work.
Yeah.
Okay. Productivity at work. You can if you like. Okay. How about Troy? Super Troy.
Yeah, I'm just looking to, you know, came to one of yours before, that point and click kind of,
Mhm.
you know, if you can point at it, you can fix it.
Yep.
Just refresher on that.
Yeah, I keep not getting my lines right here. That's all right. Point and fix. Cool. How about you?
Everything.
Everything. Yes, have some. Okay.
Mostly just to not be afraid and kind of.
Not be afraid and go for it. Cool.
You're not fear.
You saw me almost at my
You're
worst.
not fear.
Cool. How about you, sir?
My internal motivation.
Internal motivation. Anytime I hear that word motivation, I get nervous.
Yeah, it's pretty nervous, really.
Internal motivation. But we can talk about that because actually there's 2 kinds of motivation. There's internal and there's external. One will actually lead to getting the work done. The other one leads to passive aggressive and reactant behaviors, which are really kind of interesting. And we actually have a process for kind of getting you motivated to do those kinds of things. External. Okay. David Owens, how are you, sir?
Hello, David.
What brings you to the wonderful world of David?
Well, I heard that David was going to be around. David told me.
Huh?
So I thought,
Well, my kudos to
I wanted
David.
to see you.
What do you want to learn today? What do you want to get out tonight?
I want to learn how to hypnotize people without them knowing it.
What part of law of attraction meetup?
That might be that key that you're looking
That
for.
might be it.
Okay, I want to be
Pretty
so
good at that.
attractive, people will just buy things from you.
There you go.
We covered that last week too.
Yeah, you did.
Who did I miss? Ronnie.
Any key that can help people in alignment.
Alignment.
Ditto. It's the only thing, because they have alignment, everything else works.
Okay. So when we talk about things like alignment, see when people start lapsing into their own personal terminology, we automatically flash into our definition of what we think that word means. And we assume that they mean the same thing. And more often than not, while there may be similarities, The differences are important. So when we talk about alignment, Ronnie, what does that mean for you?
That my internal world and my external world are aligned with each other.
Okay, that your internal world and your external world are aligned with each other. And how do you know when that happens? And what is actually important about that?
How do I know? Oh, I have such a feeling when that's happening.
Such a feeling.
And what I'm doing and what's showing up in front of me is really effortless.
What's showing up in front of you is really effortless. Okay. So if things were more effortless, you would know that you're in alignment, and therefore life would be all good. Okay. Good luck with that. I've yet to meet. I'm fairly aligned, and my shit still ain't effortless. But I'm terminally lazy and somewhat intelligent, so I do find ways to work around my laziness and get things done. Who did I miss that I have not talked to yet? Oh, you. Yes.
Hi.
I didn't forget you.
How to set yourself up to succeed.
Set yourself up to succeed. Again, very vague, very global stuff, right? Oops. Pardon my computer having a mind of its own.
It's not in alignment.
Apparently. I spend so much time typing when I'm actually doing Skype sessions. I'm literally typing the words coming out of the person's mouth as I'm doing therapy with them. So, but I am not known for my spelling accuracy, so, which is a good thing because I'd be out of a job. But anyway, so let's look at these things, okay? Point and fix. A lot of what we're going to do is going to be what I call point and fix or point and click therapy. Why? Because a lot of the problems that are a lot of things you want to solve tonight go back to the same location, or what we call body feelings. Okay? When we talk about using Ronnie's words of being in alignment, where the external world and the internal world line up, the reason a lot of times why the external world and the internal world doesn't line up is because there are parts of your internal world that aren't lined up. And that's the one thing that we have to understand, is that it's the internal congruity or the alignment within us, the vibrational frequencies in our body that make up the, what's the word I'm looking for? The gestalt, for lack of a better word, the gestalt frequency that we send out, the vibrational signature that we send out to the universe is disharmonic. Does that make sense? So a lot of the things that are in your way, that are holding you back, that are causing you to drag your feet or not be productive at work, are really due to these misalignments within ourself, which go back to parts of you that want a certain thing at the expense of other things, and they're fighting for supremacy. Right? And until we get all of you going in the same direction, on the same page for the same reasons, now what you're going to wind up manifesting is what I call the anchor versus jet engine. Come on in. Don't be bashful. I think we need more chairs.
Yeah.
Okay. The anchor versus the jet engine analogy, which if you've watched any of my videos, I'll put this up here, you've heard me talk about before. Most people go through life with the equivalent of a, come on in, with the equivalent of, nobody wants my pads. I feel rejected. Have a seat, guys. I'll bring more chairs in. There's chairs on the balcony. If you need more, you can pull those in. Okay. I have also chairs behind the desk with rollers and stuff like that. So most people go through life with the equivalent of a jet engine and an anchor strapped to their back. And it's the difference between the drag from the anchor and the thrust from the engine that determines how far you get, how fast. The problem is most of us are so focused a lot of times on putting more thrust in the engine, higher octane fuel, vision boards, all of these things, and we think that's moving us forward, but what it actually is doing in many cases is creating more drag from that anchor. So the first thing that we have to do, no matter what it is, whether it's becoming more productive at work, whether it's being in alignment with yourself, setting yourself up for success, being motivated internally or externally, the first thing we got to do is we got to cut the anchors. We got to remove the anchors from our system. We got to relieve those things that are saying we can't have it, or we shouldn't have it, or we don't deserve it. Or if you have this, you might be this person, which you didn't like those kinds of people growing up, and so if you become that, it won't happen. Do you sound familiar? Right? These are all programs that we're running. Right? They're programs that were installed in you roughly between the ages of 0 to 7. I say 0 to 5, but other people say 0 to 7. It's still close enough for government work. Right? 0 to 7 is the magic time in our life. And actually from conception to 7 is really when these things start to get installed in us. Right? And as a therapist and a professional who my specialty is working with psychosomatic illness. Physiological illness, chronic physical terminal illnesses that have as its root repressed emotion. So I spend a lot of time with people 0 to 7. That's where we always, always, always end up. You know, once in a blue moon, you'll end up a little bit older, but almost never. You know, and when you take them back to that time when they're older, like in their 20s, and you ask them, have you ever felt that way before? They go, yeah. Go back to the first time you ever felt, oh, I'm 7. Right? So a lot of times what we think is the cause, is the source, isn't. Your unconscious mind is not linear. Your conscious mind is linear. Most people who walk into my door say, I have this problem, it started here, I think it's this. And then I'll say to them, well, what have you done? And they'll give me the laundry list of everything they've tried. Right? And then they'll tell me how to fix it. And I'll say, and then in my head I'm calling them a liar, but I'm just smiling and nodding and pretending to actually care. No, it's not true. Because they don't know. They don't know, because if they did, they wouldn't be in my chair. And that's the simple litmus test. Right? If I had $1 for every time the words, I thought I cleared that. I've already forgiven them for that, came out of somebody's mouth. Right? But this is where the rubber hits the road. The things that hold us back largely weren't your fault. It wasn't your fault what happened to you, but it is your responsibility for getting rid of them. Does that make sense? Okay. So, how many people here, this is your first time with me? Just for grins and giggles. Cool. I pity you people already. But, all right. You guys need me to launch into my pedigree, or do you guys really care?
No, let's just go.
Let's just go? All right. So, how many people here? All right. So, first and foremost, we obviously it's a very crowded room tonight. So, but I think, well, we'll see who shows up. But if you guys want to spread out a little bit, give yourselves a little bit more room, or if you like being cozy, that's fine too. Right? I love questions. Love questions, but beware, I am prone to chasing squirrels and cats and other types of small furry animals. If you ask me a question, God knows where we'll end up. Right? So my goal here tonight is to give you useful information, things that you can actually start using right away. And the first thing that we have to cover is the idea of clearing up shit. Shit being a technical term, right? Secret hypnotic influence techniques. This is how it works, right? And the shit that we carry usually starts between 0 and 7 years of age. Okay? The interesting thing about the things I'm going to be talking to you about and I'm going to be sharing with you in the context of law of attraction are actually applicable to pretty much every other field of self-help and personal development that there is. Troy, there's some chairs behind the desk there. Can we get those? All right, cool. All right, 0 to 7 years of age is the magic time from conception forward. Now, whether you believe in energy, most of the people here who are in law of attraction are big believers in energy. I'm sorry for that. Because when I talk to people about it, and by the way, I have more energy credentials than McDonald's sells hamburgers. Okay, first of all, I have a diplomate of Oriental Medicine from the Southern California University of Health Sciences. Master's degree in acupuncture and Oriental medicine. I'm a licensed acupuncturist here in California as well as nationally. I've been a Reiki master since before Reiki was cool, right? Like back in the 90s when you actually had to work for your Reiki degree, right? I'm a certified pranic healer, pranic psychotherapist. I'm a certified DNA theta healer, an advanced DNA theta healer. I'm certified in Bankston, which is, in my opinion, the most scientifically validated form of energy healing out there. And it has some of the most powerful manifesting techniques inherent within it that I've ever come across. And many times when I do law of attraction and energy healing meetups, I actually will teach some of those systems. What am I missing?
How do you spell that last one?
Bankston, B-E, I'll spell it for you here. And Bill is a really cool guy. I call him a reluctant researcher. B-E-N, hold on. I see that. I'm just going to make it bigger in a minute. Bankston. And we'll just make that really big so people can see it, and then we'll put it up here. No, not Bangstong. Damn you. See, you can always count on Microsoft for comic relief. All right. Bankston, and if you go to bangstonresearch.com, he's got actually all the scientific studies. He's done more studies at medical universities than probably any other energy healer. He's debunked a lot of myths surrounding how energy healing works, how remote healing works, things like that. And he did it mostly by teaching people who didn't believe in energy healing how to do energy healing. And they actually healed people better than people who actually believed in energy healing, which is actually corroborates the research done by a guy named Larry Dawsey, who you guys might have heard of. He wrote some books on prayer and some faith healing and things like that. So, and the reason that I kind of preface that whole energy healing thing with, oh, I'm sorry, is because when we start talking about energetics, we start getting really, really vague. And people start utilizing their own terminologies. Remember I talked about that before? You got to watch out when people start using their own terminologies. And everybody thinks they know what the other person means. And then you try to drill down and you can't. They just keep getting more and more vague and obscure until you've completely gone off track. One of the reasons that energy healing disciplines tend to take longer to affect change than other forms is that they only target, in the David's model, this is the world according to David, 2/3 of the human being. They target the physical body and directly on the energy body, and for the most part they leave the mental body untouched. The mental body, ladies and gentlemen, is the causal body. When you have an experience, it's recorded holographically throughout the entire system. And so, but the causal body is where a lot of that memory information is stored, and it's running on a perpetual loop, like a little pocket dimension. And it generates a surcharge of emotional energy, because that fragment of your consciousness doesn't know that shit's over. Okay? And it just keeps running. And over time, your body is like a big hard drive. It starts to accumulate more and more and more events, recordings, if you will, that are on a perpetual loop. And it has to start figuring out, what am I going to do with this stuff? And so it starts to organize them in your body somatically, as well as in your field, your vibrational field around you, by what they have in common. Now, the best metaphor I've ever seen for how this evolves in the human body, you ever seen the old Ghostbusters films? You know when they would go into a building, they would capture a spook, they would put it in the trap, shoo, right? And had all this psychic energy locked in this little box. And then they had to find some place to put the box. So they found a bigger container to put the box in. And by the end of the movie, what was happening? It was overloading. Shit was starting to go funky. Well, guess what? That's how cancers and multiple sclerosis and Parkinson's and all these other ailments, these chronic ailments that we start to generate, evolve. They start as one tiny little episode that was recorded and stored, and over time, the neurology just keeps stacking things by what they have in common. And every time you go through a context or a situation or an environment, the first thing that's going to happen, this goes back to your self-fulfilling prophecy, the first thing that's going to happen is the unconscious mind is going to say, have we ever experienced this before? And he's going to go to his buddy in the back, hey Nunzio, we ever done this before? This ever happened? Let me check. Oh, hell yeah. What did we do? We did this. Okay, I'll do that again. And the same behavior manifests because it worked the first time. So your unconscious mind doesn't really care too much about the current context. It's hardwired, it's weighted to sort for what's familiar. Familiar was what was there first, what was there the longest, and what was done most often. It doesn't matter if there's a better choice. It will sort for what it's done the most, because familiarity equals safety, even if it sucks. Okay? When these things were programmed into you, they were programmed into you at a time and a place where the whole idea of right, wrong, good, evil, spiritual, not spiritual, love, hate, didn't exist. There were some very, very fine distinctions that you as a growing being had. It was either familiar or it wasn't. It either felt good or it felt bad. That was pretty much it. Every other distinction that you have grew from that. And whatever got there first, regardless of how it felt, became the standard by which every other experience is measured from. Yes?
Lineage.
What about lineage?
So if you're saying 0 to 7, but some of that stuff happened to parents who happened to grandparents that happened to...
Yep.
So
there is definitely a component there for that. There are imprints that we have carried genetically. I have first-hand proof of genetic memory being passed on, because I've actually worked with transplant patients who took on the memories of their donor organs. I mean, I'm talking about health nuts who are diabetic, and 2 or 3 weeks after they get home from the hospital, everything going in their mouth is pizza and beer, right? Because the donor was a garbage guy, right? It's just one of those things. So there is a strong, strong component to cellular imprinting, but it can be cleared too, because it's just an imprint. It's a hologram though. And this is where we have to start changing how we think a little bit. And I don't know your background, so I'm being very global. And I'm going to assume you know nothing, because that's the safest way to be, right? Because the idea is tonight is to leave with something that we can use, something practical. And if all you learned how to do was clear up your own shit, you'd take off like a rocket, right? And that's really what it's about. Which goes back to this whole idea of point and fix therapy, or point and click therapy. When we record these things, and we start to accumulate them, your body, just like a hard drive, organizes them, but it organizes them based on what they have in common. And so Swedish studies have corroborated that the human body tends to store similar emotions in similar areas. Oddly enough, they correspond to those weird chakra things, but not always. I've had really weird shit happen, and this is why you have to be careful when you start applying a system, a full system, unilaterally to you, because it doesn't give you any room for individuality. So in my classes when I teach, I don't give you standard colors for standard things, because in the long run, I don't care. What I care about is how your neurology interprets that information. Because everything that we have, everything that we experience, everything we think we are, is an interpretation. It's an interpretation of the vibrational equivalent of ones and zeros. And your neurology can interpret those ones and zeros any way it wants. It can interpret pain as intense pleasure, and vice versa. We have communities for that, as a matter of fact. Okay? I'll just put since we're getting into the meat of everything, I'm going to put out my disclaimer right now. If politically incorrect language, profanity, colorful metaphors, or the word boobies offends you, there's the fucking door. All right? I like to have fun, because that's the secret to making the law of attraction work. If you're not having fun, if you're not being playful, you are locked into a vibration that is going to keep you stuck. Period. It's the ability to have fun and be joyful and be playful that allows you to access the resources of your neurology faster. Jesus said it, he hid it in the Bible when he said, be as little children. The ability to play pretend, the ability to go into that childlike playful state where everything is real, even if you don't believe it at first, is where the magic happens. You got to go there. And if, to the degree that you're willing to go there and get your body involved, ladies and gentlemen, you can make any change that you want. And you don't have to believe it. You just got to do it. Mm-hmm. That's what I like, because if what I did here clinically every single day relied on my clients to believe in this shit, I'd have an 80% failure rate instead of a 90% success rate. Right? 9 out of 10 people who walk in that door walk out different than they went in. And that's actually a low rating. But there's no such thing as 100%, so I won't say I have 100% success. By the way, this means yes, this means no. There will be a test. Yes?
So are we kind of discussing here the plasticity of the brain and neural pathways being laid down, and
that's part of it.
that kind of,
yeah, but what you're talking about is the hardware.
Is that what you're saying, the energy work does not include the mental part? Is that the part you're referring to? No,
I'm talking about the vibrational components where the actual problem is encoded. Over time, the nerves, neuroplasticity, in case you don't know, is the speed and facility with which the brain creates new neurological connections from one to the other. The longer those connections are utilized, the deeper and more powerful they become, which is analogous to the hypnotic principle, the law of unconscious response, or the law of I forget what the actual term is now, but basically the way it's the familiarity concept is the longer an issue or an idea has been in play, accepted in the unconscious mind, the harder it is to change, right? That goes back to the organic component of neuroplasticity. The more times a neuron fires, the more powerfully and deeply that pathway is etched in the brain. Now, there is a way to change that very, very quickly, and it's through amplifying neuroplasticity. The fastest way to amplify neuroplasticity is 20 to 30 minutes of intense machine gun orgasms. We won't be doing that tonight. Okay? That's a different meetup for a different day. Hopefully in a different room. But anyway, but what do I mean by that? There's a hormone in the body known as oxytocin. Oxytocin is, on one level, the bonding hormone. It's the one that establishes pair bonding between a mother and a daughter, between a mate and her spouse. It is also the primary mediator for amplifying and enhancing neuroplasticity. Enough oxytocin delivered to the system in enough concentrations has the ability to rapidly overwrite past programming and allow for the installment and overlayment of new programming in its place. This is also the neurological pathway with which fetishes are created. Okay? I work with a lot of people who have sex addictions and other things like that. It's all relevant. Okay? The self-fulfilling prophecies, to use Michael's term, everything that we're manifesting more than twice is a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's a program that's been laid down. Right? And depending on how often that particular pattern emerges in your life, gives you an idea of how long and how deep it's been there. Right? If you keep dating the same person with a different face, right, you know what I mean. Took you a minute for that one, right? But again, law of attraction, human attraction, it's the same idea. The templates that govern who we're attracted to and who we stay with are laid down here. Whether you like them or not. It's not about like. It's about what was there first. Imprints. And until we change the imprints, we're not going to change much else, right? We can get superficial change, but those tendencies will still tend to be there. Does that make sense? So we got to get happy. We got to get playful. We got to have fun first. Because until we can get playful and get fun, we don't have near the access to the power that's latent within our system. And that's what it's about. It's about taking the randomness. That's what the law of attraction is, isn't it? Taking the randomness out of your life, getting the life you want, right? Being the person you want to be instead of the person you were programmed to be at a time and a place where you didn't have any defenses, when you didn't know what was going on, when you didn't have the resources to deal with it any other way. See, that shit wasn't your fault. But it is your responsibility to deal with it. Right? Remember, even though we're pissed off at our parents, we blame a lot of our shit on the imprints and stuff we got from our parents, consciously or unconsciously. Our parents can't teach us what they don't know. Right? Every parent on the planet says, you got to love yourself, you got to love yourself. How? How do I do that? What does that actually mean on a practical level? What it actually means on a practical level is you accept who you are. That's it. Doesn't mean you like everything about yourself. I'll give you an example. I hate the fact that I will never be 6 foot tall. It pisses me off. But I accept it, barring some kind of weird surgery or some hormonal imbalance, right? Yes?
You probably don't run into as many things with your head.
No, I don't. Says the 6-footer in the room. Right? So, did that help kind of fill in the gaps for the neuroplasticity question?
Yeah.
Okay. Everything I'm teaching you has an organic, a hormonal, or a structural, a hormonal, and an energetic electromagnetic reality to it. But they're not separate. And this is what we need to understand, and why when we're doing the work that we do, at least in the world according to David, if what I teach you and what I'm sharing with you resonates with you, use it. If it doesn't, find something that does. Okay? You know, my one ego-driven statement is, if you can find shit that works as fast and as deeply for you as what I do does for everybody I work with, go for it. That's my one ego-driven statement, right? But I'm in the shit every day, dealing with people who, don't know why they're screwed up, or think they know, and then they wind up somewhere completely different, which is one of the things we have to cover right now. We're going to be learning today how to dialogue with the other part of you. We're going to be learning today how to work with that part in a way that we can extract and get information and utilize it for change. To do that, we have to understand the dynamics of one part of your mind versus the other. First and foremost, your conscious mind, the part of you that analyzes, rationalizes, judges, is the least informed and the last to know anything in the body. But it's like my 3-year-old. It's the one that screams the loudest, the one that demands the most attention, the one that's trying to tell everybody else how to do what they know how to do, right? And the first sign of trouble, it's gone. It checks out. Okay? Then there's the rest of us, the part that actually does the work. Now, I'm not belittling the conscious mind. It serves a very, very important function in the whole mind-body dynamic. But if you don't understand its place and how it's utilized, you won't utilize it. You can't, right? Your unconscious mind always answers first. It always feels like you're making it up. You almost always have this insane urge to edit it. It's never loud. It's always like a whim or a notion in the back of your mind. And it's almost never linear. When I start bringing people up to do demos and things like that, I don't know how deeply we'll get into actually the one-on-one work, but I will bring 1 or 2 people up and we'll help you clear some shit, if that helps, right? And we'll talk about motivating and being more productive, because the things that keep us from being productive are the anchors. We know we sit down to do some work and all of a sudden we're chasing squirrels or playing Joule or some kind of weird computer game, right? That's your defense mechanisms. Those are the anchors saying, you can't go there, it's too dangerous, it's too scary, I don't want to do that. And it's sending you off chasing squirrels, right? The secret to motivation is desire. How bad do you want to do something? How bad? Because when there's something we really want to do, how distractible are we? Not, right? So a lot of times if we're in a job that we don't like, or it's become kind of boring or moot, there's some internal motivation changes that have happened. We change those pictures around, we get our motivation back. Internal motivation is largely what we focus on, what aspect of the process we focus on, as opposed to the end result. Right? And I'll circle around with that because I want to kind of get into this whole holographic idea and why the point and click idea, or point and fix area. So, mental body, energy body or emotional body, physical body. In our society, we come from a reductionist model of the sciences. In other words, we separate the biology from the psychology, from the physics, right? And these disciplines don't really talk to each other all that much. In the self-help world, we have the same idea. We have body workers, we have energy workers, we have herbalists, right? And then we have, psycho or talk therapists. We separate all these things out. And that's the problem. Because the human being isn't designed to work optimally that way. The systems that make up a human being are designed by the big G to work synergistically, congruently towards a specific outcome. When all of the elements are in place, change can happen very deeply, very pervasively, and very fast. Change can happen using these other modalities, but they generally take a lot more work. They're usually temporary, and there's a lot more energy and a lot longer time period involved. Right? The average success rate for psychoanalysis is 12 years, 7 to 12 years. Think about that. They're going to have you talking about your shit for 7 to 12 years. Right? And then they only have like a 25 to 35% chance of actually getting help. And that's a generous statistic. The closest success rate to hypnosis is CBT, and that's only like, it's like less than 20. Yeah, it's not good. But you'll find one common denominator amongst all therapies that tend to work. Hypnotic principles. There's altered states of consciousness involved. And that's where we need to start. Yeah.
You're saying that I've been studying Tantra,
Mm-hmm.
and that was all about sex. Apparently it's not.
No. No, it isn't.
It's actually beautiful, amazing. It's
Yeah.
actually, but what I noticed is that I studied hypnosis first,
Mm-hmm.
and what I realized is that meditation is the same as hypnosis. And so basically what you're doing as a hypnotist is you're helping somebody go into meditation and so they can be in more of a resourceful state.
Mm-hmm.
And so that they can reach their subconscious more.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing as doing your own meditation is self-hypnosis, in my opinion. This is what I noticed. But
You'll find that meditation and
Yeah.
self-hypnosis have a lot more in common than they don't.
Yeah. So I mean, honestly, like hypnosis is a way to help other people that have problems being able
Mhm.
to meditate.
Yep.
To do that.
What's the common denominator?
Delta wave?
It depends. Could be gammas too, depending on what you're doing. Like a lot of Bankston work tends to focus on gamma wave, very high frequency stuff. And I wouldn't get hung up on brain waves. Only biofeedback people get hung up on brain waves, right? Your brain isn't designed to work. It's not going to say, I need to go to a theta state. Well, I know people who spend their life in theta and can't get a fucking thing done. Except be in theta because they put the headphones on. You need to be outcome focused. What's the phenomena? What's the result you want to produce? In personal training and sports training, they have this phenomenon known as SAID. SAID! Anyway, sorry, I'm watching way too much Psych. SAID, which is actually an acronym. Specific adaptation to imposed demand. Specific adaptation to imposed demand. What that means is your brain and your body get good at doing what they have to do over and over and over again. And so you will develop the musculature, the coordination, the brainwave states that are necessary for the facilitation of that outcome. How many people have a background in NLP? I'm going to wax into jargon a little bit. In NLP, they say, they have an old saying, an old chestnut they've been throwing around that most people can never really understand. Is that anything that presupposes a trance causes a trance. Now, I don't know why a neurolinguistic programmer whose field is words would use a word like presuppose that almost nobody understands, right? Presuppose means assumes.
Right.
That's all it means. In English, what that actually means is anything that relies on a trance in order to manifest must first cause that trance in order to manifest. That's it.
Circular.
So if we just start with what we want, we'll tend, given enough time and practice, to automatically go into the state that's most conducive to the outcome. Right? But if we start with trying to create a specific brainwave state first, well, we'll develop all the faculties to go into that brainwave state, and then not much else. Because we're very specific that way. Yeah.
Question is, like in Think and Grow Rich, you're talking about what you just said, just looking in the mirror, writing down your goals, and just like he talks about the amount of money that you want, just imagine like having it. Is
Yeah.
that what you mean?
I'm going to be very, very cautious in how I answer that.
Okay.
The problem isn't with imagining the things we want. It's the other feelings that arise when we imagine it. How many people have noticed whenever you start to imagine something you want, you get this really cool, elated feeling for what you want, and then there's all these little icky feelings in the background?
Yeah.
That's what's holding you back. That's what you have to clear first. If all you do is focus on building that image of what you want up over and over and over again, well, you're just creating more thrust, which automatically creates more drag. It contaminates the vibrational message you're sending out to the universe. Does that make sense?
Yes. Absolutely.
So how do we get rid of this shit? It's real simple. How did you know you had a bad feeling in the first place? How many people ever had the experience where you're imagining, you're trying to use the law of attraction, or you're using the law of attraction, you're imagining something you want, and in the background, somewhere in your body, you feel these icky feelings in the background. You try to ignore them and focus on what you want, right? That's exactly why you get stuck. That hasn't happened for you? Never?
No, it happens.
All right.
Focus on
Right.
when I go into.
Yeah, you know to run towards the burning building that everybody else wants to run out of. By the way, what you've just described is exactly why people wind up in my chair.
You run away from it rather than do it.
Has this ever happened to any of you? It's a beautiful weekend. You're driving out in the sun. Radio's cranking. Not a care in the world. Having a good time. And then all of a sudden a shitty memory from when you were 12 comes up. Now let me ask you something. Do you dive head first into that shit? Or you turn the radio up louder and hit the gas? I don't want to think about that shit and you stuff it down, right? True, not true? What happens is your unconscious mind is sitting down there, and part of its job is to hold on to this stuff until the conscious mind can come down and tell him what to do with it. So he's sitting back there with all this shit and he's going, hey, well, he's not doing anything right now. Maybe we can finally handle this, right? And it spits that shit up, and because nobody taught us how to deal, or that we need to, or we've got other things we need to handle first, we stuff it back down. For every unit of energy that we keep locked in the body, you need an equal or greater unit of energy to keep it there. Right? Now, one of my mentors was a guy named Stephen Parkhill. He actually wasn't one of my physical mentors, he's one of my by proxy mentors. But I spent more time with his videotapes and his books than probably any other trainer, because that was his specialty was terminal cancer. And he would bring people in who had, you know, weeks to live and cure them. Astronomical success rate. Not all, but a lot. And so one of the things he's fond of saying is that you will run out of body parts long before your unconscious mind runs out of ideas for getting your attention. Right? The feelings in your body, positive or negative, are like the warning lights on your dashboard. They're not the problem. They're the indicator that lets you know there is a problem. And you have to clean that shit out, and you'll take off like a rocket. You'll be amazed how many times you go in and fix something in yourself, how fast everyone around you seems to change. Because we're actually programming people how to respond to us. Those filters, those energy patterns within your neurology are literally filters to your reality. They're screening things and changing the priority of data in your environment that you pay attention to. Quantum physicists tell us that everything that has ever been or ever will be, metaphysics saying the same thing, that has ever been or ever will be is right here, right now. Why aren't we seeing it, feeling it, hearing it? It's because of the filters you have in place that screen that information out and reprioritize what you pay attention to based on your self-concept and your self-image, which happened here. How do you find them? You ask the question and point to where you feel it. Because every single memory container, remember Ghostbusters? Had to go somewhere, and it went somewhere in your body. The node where all of that holographic information comes together and is reproduced is the feeling location. In my world, we call it the somatic address.
I had a somatic, some body work done earlier this year. And he pushed on this place on my thigh and brought up this memory about my dad when I was like 3, 4, 5.
There you go. Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? What?
Yeah, it's locked in the...
And it hurt like a big dog. I mean,
yeah, I know. I've been there.
Yeah. So I've had some body work. I know what you're talking about.
Body workers are very familiar with this concept. They call it a healing crisis. Right? Hypnotists call it abreactions, and unfortunately they're taught to run screaming from it. I see an abreaction in my chair, I get excited.
Oh, I would, yeah.
I do, because to me that's like the dog with a bone. Most hypnotists are taught not to deal with that shit. Put the genie back in the bottle. In the therapies that I do, that's the fastest route to the problem. So I'm going to follow it like a bloodhound. Yeah.
Years ago, I worked with the Kids Education League, and we were doing some work, and they were between the ages of 5 and 7, and they all went straight into the body.
Yep.
As we worked on them, they all said to us, "It's there."
Yeah.
And they asked us to work.
The body is the single biggest missing component in hypnosis. It's the single biggest missing component in pretty much all the different types of psycho-emotional problems that we deal with. Once you get the body engaged, once you get the body involved, it's very hard not to change. It's very hard not to. But most people, especially people who are afraid of change, we'll get up and we'll start doing exercises and they won't move.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's a part of them that isn't ready for that. But the more you get the meat involved, that's my supernatural reference, right? The more you get the meat suit engaged, the more of your potential you tap into, the more energy and amplitude you bring to the message. Remember, your neurology is the single largest organic antenna on the planet. It is constantly emitting a vibrational signature out to the universe that is the composite, the sum total of every filter and program running in your body right now. The sum total of every feeling, conscious and unconscious. That's what you're sending out to the universe. Purify the signal, clean up the crap, and what you want will manifest cleaner, purer, and faster. Right? It's that simple. Yes?
So rather than taking one little episode after another for the first 7 years or however, Is there a quicker way to be able to clear a lot of emotional passion?
Yep. Lots of different ways to do it. Lots of different ways to do it. And we're going to cover some of those, but we've got to start playing. I want to introduce you, if I can, to some things about your neurology, experientially. The secret to this, how many people can feel good for no reason? Okay, I have drugs in the back. Everybody stand up. Everybody stand up. We're going to start with this right now. Because this is, again, we're going to start getting into the working portion of tonight. Now, all right, let's just do this drill and then I'll go into the outcomes part. So here's what I want you to do. I want everybody to understand that the single fastest way to change your vibrational signature is to change the feelings in your body. The fastest way to change the feelings in your body, no matter what's going on around you, is to change the way you stand and the way you breathe. There's a TED Talk I reference all the time by a woman named Amy Cuddy. It's called Power Poses. If you haven't watched that video, you need to go watch it 20 times. What we do in our trainings and in our advanced courses goes well beyond what Amy's teaching, but she has done the science. If you hold a simple posture like a victory pose, or the Peter Pan or Wonder Woman pose, or what I call the gorilla or chairman of the board pose, this means something different in San Francisco, but that's my politically incorrect humor for the day. Or you have that feet up on your desk and you hold that for as little as 2 minutes. The hormones in your body change in a testable, verifiable way. 25% boost in testosterone, corresponding drop in cortisol. Not only do you become more confident and assertive, you become more relaxed, which is perfect if you're going to manifest, if you're going to do manifestation work. And how many people ever tried to manifest something and you're in a shitty mood and you just want to do your manifesting and fix it? Dipshit has done that. No, that's like putting pouring clear coffee into stale coffee. Bad idea. You get shitty coffee no matter what, right? So the idea is if you're going to do manifesting work, you've got to start from a positive state, a state of possibility, a state of playfulness. Now the fastest way to break your state is to change your posture. Okay? So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to remember a time in your life when you saw something you really, really, really wanted. Not that one, the other one. It's all right, whatever you want. You're not going to tell me what it is as long as it's legal. But anyway, no, I don't care if it's illegal or not. You're not going to tell me, so I don't know. I'm not psychic. I want you to stand the way you were standing in that moment when you realized you wanted it, right? And you knew you were gonna, and you made a plan. You put that plan into operation, and you nailed it. Home run, touchdown. I want you to stand the way you were standing. I want you to breathe the way you were breathing. I want you to let those feelings come flooding back into your mind and body. And I want you to hold that posture, hold that position. And we're going to do a bunch of things from this posture, but we're going to start here. First thing I want you to do is, without changing anything about the way you're standing, about the way you're breathing, try to feel bad. Notice what happens instead. Notice what your body wants to do when you try to feel bad. Notice how it wants to change? All you got to do is remember not to change, and you can't feel bad. If you understand the ramifications of this, the implications of this, no one can push your buttons for long without your permission ever again. Remember, I told you before, you're walking around in the world's largest organic antenna. The vibrational signature that causes what you manifest in your life is based on the energetic signature, the sum total of all the feelings and states in your body at any given moment. If I can, you guys know what rabbit ears are? The little antenna things? Whenever we didn't have a clear signal, what did we do? We moved that shit around, right? You just kept moving around till you found the signal. Well, that's what your body's for. Your body is a vehicle and a navigation system to allow you to navigate the vibrational reality we call this earth, this place. But it's not real. It's not real. It's an interpretation of vibrational information that came in through these portals we call senses, is processed from electromagnetic signals by the places in your brain we call cortexes, and is reconfigured into this. It's a movie. It's an interpretation. And it's completely 100% changeable. Okay? Your ability to change it is based on your ability to use your imagination, to remove the filters in your perception, and to play. Okay? So, now that we understand this aspect, what I want you to do now is I want you to turn around and face Troy, because I don't want you looking at me when you feel this shit. Okay? No. And I want you to think of a time in your life when you saw something you wanted, and you went for it, but for some reason it didn't manifest. You just missed the brass ring or whatever. And I want you to stand, and I want you to remember that moment of disappointment, if you will, when you realized it wasn't going to happen. And I want you to stand the way you were standing, and I want you to breathe the way you were breathing, and I want you to feel the way you were feeling in that moment. Not too long, just a little bit. And now what I want you to do, without changing your posture, without changing your breathing, try to feel good. Notice what happens instead. Now, hold on to that negative feeling. Shift your body back to the winner posture, to the winner breathing pattern. Notice what happens now. In spite of what I told you to do. Turn around, look up here. Irina, what'd you notice?
Everything is completely depend on my posture and my physical...
Let me see if I understand. You mean I told you to feel bad, shift your body back to the positive posture and still feel bad, and you couldn't do it?
Yeah, I couldn't.
No. See that? Russians just can't follow instructions. No, that's it. No, it was right.
Maybe I didn't comprehend.
You did it right. I'm just teasing you.
Okay.
How many people noticed that even in spite of the fact they were feeling crappy, the minute they changed their body, even though I told you to consciously hold on to the bad feeling, you couldn't do it? That's the magic. Right there. Because there is no situation, unless they physically restrain you and tie you in a specific position, that you can't change how you're standing or sitting or breathing. Situations can overwhelm you. People can say shit that will cause your conscious mind to just check out. But as long as you can remember, change your physiology, change the way you're standing, change the way you're breathing, you can get it back. Period. Okay? Very cool. Now, I want you to go deeper into that wonderful warrior, victorious, whatever feeling it is. If you want to have orgasms, I don't care. Just keep it quiet. Right? Some people do. I mean, it's very weird. Well, it's not weird, but it's one of those things. But I want you to just go as fully into those wonderful feelings as you can. Because now things are about to get even cooler. And close your eyes, see what you saw, hear what you heard, feel what you felt. Remember that moment of ecstasy, that moment of victory, whatever pleasure state it is that you love so much, that just makes you want more. Gets you excited, motivated, inspired. See what you saw, hear what you heard, feel what you felt. But now what I want you to notice is that there's a place somewhere in your body where those feelings start. First impression, point to where you feel it. Look at it with your inner eyes. Notice there's a color or a set of colors connected to that feeling. First impression, what's the color? What's your color?
Red.
Red, that's right. Close your eyes.
All right.
Breathe that red energy through your entire body, from the top of your head to the tips of your toes, and notice what happens. Find any places of stuckness, tightness, or tension, worry, fear, anxiety. Breathe that energy through those areas and notice what happens. What do you notice?
It's a tough one.
What's happening to those areas?
Pain goes away.
Goes away? Pain goes away? What do you notice when you do it? Because I know you're doing it. You're copped as trance. I saw that. Go ahead.
I'm not there.
You're not there? Okay. Ronnie, what'd you do? She's still doing it. She's stuck in.
I'm not Ronnie.
You're not Ronnie. Oh, sorry. That's Ronnie. You're Michelle. I'll get your names by next year. Right? How many people followed along when I told him what to do? Raise your hands if you did. It's okay. What'd you notice?
Even though red wasn't my color, I took the red in and went through my body with it.
That's right. What'd you notice, John?
Just completely relaxed. And it's fun because I could feel some tightness in my shoulders and just breathe through that, and I could feel just kind of melting.
Excellent. That's right. What'd you notice, Michael?
Felt a nice orange sensation.
Orange sensation. Yeah. Ronnie, what'd you notice?
Just as I breathe in, it just breaks it up.
Okay. What'd you notice? Sit, all of you. We're going to get up in a minute, but I want to go through this. Law of attraction tells it.
Nobody wanted to use their voice.
What?
Nobody said they wanted to use their voice. Nobody wanted to scream. Nobody wanted to laugh. Nobody...
They don't think they're allowed to.
Oh, okay.
Voice is really powerful, but it might freak the neighbors out. So.
Oh, okay.
But you wanted to use your voice?
Yeah, of course.
Then go ahead. Scare the straights. I don't care. That's what I live for. Excellent. I'm going to bring you up to do a demo. You're going to be fun. I love expressive people. It makes for good television, right? And I've actually been accused of like hiring people to do that. I don't do that shit. Right? This is how I test myself. I bring fucking random strangers out of the audience and change them whether they want to change or not. Right? That's not true. If you didn't want to change, I wouldn't bring you out. But I'm never here to embarrass anybody. I'm never here to make anybody feel bad. My job is to show you what's possible and to end as much suffering on this planet as I can. That's my job. If I can do it in a fun, playful way, it's less boring for me and the less therapy I need. Right? Now, what I just shared with you is a piece of a technique I call resolution frequency generator. Okay? Earlier we were talking about neuroplasticity. We were talking about the holographic nature of the nervous system. We were talking about feelings. We were talking about vibration. We were talking about frequency. We were talking about all these things. Here's the formula. The feelings in your body are the manifestation of all of the holographic data encoded within your nervous system. They are also equivalent to the vibrational frequency that you're emanating and radiating. For every vibrational frequency, you have a range of correspondent phenomena. In other words, how many people in here are familiar with the law of correspondence? If you're not, it's okay, we'll cover it. There's two laws I want you to become very familiar with. One is the law of analogy. The other is called the law of correspondence. Now, these are fundamental principles that drive the law of attraction. And if you don't understand them, you are operating at a severe deficit. The law of attraction that is commonly espoused to the world today says that you will attract into your life the situations, people, circumstances, and events that are in harmony with your dominant thoughts. And there's the rub. Because nobody told you what your dominant thoughts actually are. Most people think that their dominant thoughts are the ones they're aware of right now. The little voice in their head that just said, what voice? Right? Right? That one. Right? The one that's giving you that running dialogue. But that's a very small part of a bigger pie. The dominant thoughts that you have are those little fragments of consciousness on an endless loop stored in your body and manifesting as feelings. And they're running all the time. The thoughts you're aware of are transient. They're like a fart in the breeze. Gone. Right? Ooh, gone. Right? That's the best part about them. Right? But what's stored in your body on those endless loops, that's always there. It's always running. And you're always adding more. Because nobody taught you how to get rid of the shit you've accumulated. And by the way, even after you get rid of the shit you're accumulating, you'll still acquire more. But that's called maintenance. Right? Anybody here have air conditioning in their house? What happens when you don't change those filters? Yeah, bad shit, right? That's right. Breathing gets a little difficult. Same thing happens in your system. Your system is a masterpiece of engineering. If you ever doubted that God existed, look at your bodies. And then curse God a little bit and then thank God for giving you something to walk around. Because most of us have aches and pains and we grovel. But the feelings that you're carrying around do not mean you're broken. They do not mean you're broken. Nobody here is broken. What they do mean is that the systems that the universe put in place to protect you, to help you to survive situations, circumstances, and events that you weren't equipped for, did their job. They did their job. And the little feelies you're running around with are the little check engine lights on your dashboard saying, hey, the tank's full. Want to change this out? But what do? More shit in the tank. Right? And this is why we have these self-fulfilling prophecies. Okay? They're holographic, which means they're not just in the body. They're not just in the mind. They're not just in the energy field. They're everywhere. And they're all connected. And if you change one piece, everything will change. But if you clear a segment of it out and one segment is remaining and something triggers that, the feeling comes back, albeit maybe not as intensely. You guys ever have this experience where you've gone in, you've got some really good change work, and you run into a similar experience and it doesn't come back nearly as strong, but it still comes back?
Yeah.
What it means is you got fragments that didn't get cleaned out. Yeah. And that's usually because you utilized a change work system that targeted one particular aspect of the human being instead of integrating everything. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. So going back to this idea of point and fix. If you can point to where you feel it in your body, you can fix it. Because that body feeling is the vibrational signature and the expression of a holographic information that's recorded in your body. It's the node where all of the different levels come together and you can access all of it simultaneously. Okay? Law of correspondence tells us that for every frequency, there's a sound, there's a direction, there's a color, there's a taste. The entire system of Oriental medicine is based on this. So is Western magic, which is, by the way, where we get the law of attraction, in case you didn't know that. Comes from it's an extraction, it's a variant, a distillation, if you will, from a much older work known as the Tabula Smaragdina, the Emerald Tablet of Hermes the Thrice Great, who is the fountainhead of what we call Hermetics. It's a philosophy and a practice from which all basically magical practices stem from. But it's also a way of understanding the universe by observation, by looking for patterns that repeat at different levels of reality. The human brain is simultaneously literal, metaphorical, and analogical. You gotta go? All right, well, take care, brother. All right? Yeah, that's great. He's one of my clients, so I'll let him go early because he's worked hard today. But for every concept you can come up with, you have a physical portion of your brain that mediates and modulates it. And it's all simultaneous. Okay? The same parts of your brain that monitor physical warmth also monitor and control emotional warmth. It's called embodied cognition. To the point is, if I give you a warm drink to hold while I'm talking to you, you will actually view me and feel more warmly towards me than if you were holding a cold drink emotionally. If I give you soft, comfy chairs to sit in, you will judge me softly, less harshly than if I were giving you a hard back chair to sit in, which is why all the comfy chairs are up front. I'm teasing. The human brain is holographic in nature, it's metaphorical, it's analogical, and it's literal. And depending on how you're parsing that information, you'll focus on one or of those areas over others. Okay? How does this relate? Stand up again. So what have we covered so far? That our body is the world's largest organic antenna. Yes? We know that we can change our emotional state by changing our posture and our breathing. Yes or no? Yes. We also said that the feelings in our body are equivalent to the frequency. We want to change our body feelings, we change our body posture. But there's more. Let's go back to that good feeling that we like. And again, let's get playful. Like when we play, do you play pretend when you were a little kid?
Oh yeah.
What'd you like to play pretend at?
Like cops and robbers.
Perfect. And were you the cop or the robber?
Usually a robber.
I'm recording this, you know. Okay. What were you?
I'm sorry?
What were you, the robber?
The robber.
Cool, I'm good with that. Right? There was a time I was Darth Snyder, but hey. All right. Now, how many people, if you have not played pretend, leave now. No. How many people have ever played pretend as a kid? Raise your hand, just so I know. Okay. How many people were tomboys? How many people were tom girls? Okay. Now, whether you were a tomboy or a tomgirl, there were times in your life, moments when you were playing either with your dolls or out in the yard, or maybe you're playing soldier or cops and robbers, maybe you had a toy gun or a stick, or maybe you were a fairy princess and you had a little magic wand. And you knew, I'm not psychic really, and you knew when you started playing, you started casting your spells or whatever, that what you were doing was just pretend for the first 5 minutes. And then 6.5 minutes later, it's a real gun or a real M60, and you're killing real bad guys, and you're chucking and jiving, or you're turning people into frogs and princes and doing all this weird stuff, and you're having a ball. True or not true? Let me ask you a question. Were you asleep? No? Were you really absorbed in what you were doing? Were you having a ball? Ladies and gentlemen, if you can do that, you can make any change you want. And I'm absolutely playfully serious when I say that. Okay? The other thing is focus. We need to be absorbed in what we're doing, and we have a very, very focused, a narrow focus of attention. When I talk about focus and absorption, I'm talking about like when you go see a movie. How many people have ever been to see a movie? Right? You know how you walk into a movie, like you got your best girl or guy on one arm, you got your bottle of popcorn on the other, big old popcorn on the other. You're walking down the aisle wondering which one's going to be more fun. Right? You sit down, the lights go down, the curtain opens, and then for the next 2 hours, 20 minutes, you're somewhere else. And then the credits roll, and aside from this massive ache in your bladder because you stayed for the very, very last scene and teaser in the movie, you Avengers fans out there know what I'm talking about, right? Can you tell me at what moment you became completely absorbed and focused in that movie? If you can, you're lying. It means you weren't absorbed, right? And that's what we call smart person syndrome in some of these processes. It's what keeps you stuck. There's this part of you that wants to hang out, observe the process, evaluate the process, and decide if the process is working. Well, if there's a part of you that's outside of the experience, how absorbed are you? Say not. Right? So the secret to this is get playful, have fun, play pretend, be fully absorbed in the process, and act out the change you want. Get the body engaged. To the degree that you get the body engaged, the change has to happen. It's really cool. Okay? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to actually start to expand our understanding of these feelings and the holographic nature of a human being. We're going to do that by first pointing to where we feel those wonderful feelings. So close your eyes. Turn off your cell phones. Close your eyes. I want you to bring back those wonderful feelings. I want you to see what you saw, hear what you heard, feel what you felt. Notice where in your body those feelings start. That's right. And then I want you to take one of your hands and just touch that spot. And then imagine, if you would, ladies and gentlemen, that floating somewhere in the space around you is a picture that represents that amazing experience. Take your other hand and just reach out and touch it. First impression. That's right. Now, take both of your hands, trace the outline, trace the edges of that picture so you know exactly how big it is. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Now grab it. And just like you would open up expand the window on your iPhone or on your touch screen, make it as big as the room and notice what happens to the feeling in your body. Sequita, what just happened, baby?
Well, I hit him.
Yeah, don't punch the person. That's why I do it, so I can see people go, whoosh, whoo, shit! Right? Irina, what happened, sweetie, when you opened that up? The feeling that got stronger?
Yeah.
Cool. Reach out, grab that picture. Bring it back to its original size. Now, without changing the size of it at all, slowly pull it closer to your body and notice what happens. Don't shrink it, Sequita. You're swinking it. I'm watching everybody. What do you notice? What happened to the feeling? More intense?
Yeah.
Lift it up over your head. Pull it down around you like a big blanket and notice what happens now. What just happened, Michelle? Oh, goosebumps, huh? That's what I'm talking about. Wolfgang, what happened, brother?
Goosebumps.
Goosebumps, right? This is not in your head. All right? Now, unwrap it, lift it back up over your head. Now, you guys know what a Frisbee is, right? Now, I'm gonna give you a little caveat. You can have your feeling back in just a minute. Turn this thing into a Frisbee and throw it all the way behind you, whoosh, back behind the horizon. Don't hit the guy behind you. Notice what happened to the feelings in your body now. What'd you notice, Michelle?
They went behind me.
They're gone?
Left.
Shit! How about you? What happened?
Yeah.
They're gone? Oh, shit. Dorina,
I mean, I can feel it.
you didn't throw it far enough. You got a wall behind you. Some people do that. They don't want to give it up. Troy, what happened, brother? Gone? All right. Now, imagine your hands are the world's most powerful Frisbee magnets. Suck that sucker back. Now, here's the secret. Inside your own mind, body, and neurology, you are the god or goddess of your universe. You have complete right, privilege, and authority to do with your holograms whatever you want. I want you to take a couple minutes and play with this. Make it the size, the shape, and the location that gives you the best experience ever, and put it in that spot. Play with it. And then set it in that place and let it just soak in. Let those feelings find your heart, from your heart into your bloodstream. Let them travel every place your blood goes, flowing into the cells and the very DNA inside of those cells. Notice that process taking place. Don't try to measure it, manage it, or make it happen faster. Notice as that pleasure moves into those areas, reprogramming the DNA itself, turning each cell into a little pleasure factory, generating more and more and more of those wonderful sensations until it's impossible to turn off. Just notice that process happening. See the frequencies. Feel the frequencies locking in. And when you know they've reached that point where they're just going to keep going, impossible to turn off, ladies and gentlemen, try to turn it off and notice what happens instead. What happens, Sequita? You can't turn it off? You mean you're stuck feeling good now? Oh, shit! Give yourselves a big round of applause. Welcome to the holographic mind. NLP gave us a hint as to the reality of what was going on, but it didn't give us the whole picture. It didn't give us the understanding about how all these things work together. We talk about I don't want to get into jargon, but basically you have two kinds of states you can be in at any given moment. You can be externally or internally directed, and you can be associated or disassociated, which means you can be in the moment fully experiencing it as if it's actually happening, or you can be disassociated, like watching it on a movie theater screen. There's a language that runs your neurology. It is not the language that you speak. I want you to understand that. In neurolinguistics, the emphasis is on the language that we speak and how it interacts with your nervous system. In the world according to David, we go a hell of a lot in a very different direction. We're talking about the language of the neurology. The language that the neurology uses to create your experience and communicate that experience. Two syllables or two vowels in that language are size and proximity. The closer a hologram moves to the core of your body, the more intensely the neurology responds to it. The more arousal and amplitude you generate. Now, might that be useful in the law of attraction? Why? Why? Oh shit, he's asking us to think. I'm feeling too good. Leave me alone.
You just showed us how to manifest.
What if there's what if there's a feeling that's bothering you?
Make it go away.
Oh. How would I find that feeling? Oh, you mean point to it? Oh. Shit got really easy all of a sudden, didn't it? Yeah, because that's technology. You don't need 60 lines of code to bold a piece of type. You just open the picture and move it. Does that make sense? Human beings always create technology that mirrors the way we think. We always do that. That's why we call it intuitive. Everybody hear the term intuitive interface? Mm-hmm. Where do you think that shit comes from? It comes from you. Where did he get it? From his neurology, right? Everything we do, every piece of technology we create that has that kind of an interface is an example of a way in which our neurology can navigate this reality. How we can custom design all of the experiences we have, the ones we want to create, and the ones that will come into our world through ways we didn't directly program. It's a hologram. And if we interact with if we create an you guys can sit. You guys did really good. Okay? We're going to do more stuff in a minute, but we're going to give you guys a little break first. Once we understand the hologram, that your neurology doesn't end here, that there's a vibrational reality to these phenomena, and that every part of your system is always interacting with it. What was once a very fragmented and hard to understand system or systems becomes very user-friendly very, very quickly. It always starts and ends with the feelings in your body. The feeling states in your body are the navigation system that we use in this reality. Everything else is just interpretation. Okay? We change the feelings, we change everything. Okay? Everything human beings do, every behavior, is in response to a feeling in their body. It's either a feeling they want more of or a feeling they want less of, which goes right back to 0 to 7. It either feels good or it feels bad. It's either familiar or unfamiliar, and that's the rub. Because if feeling bad is familiar, guess what you're going to sort for? If you have to choose bad, which comes first, bad or familiar, guess which one it is? Familiar. Because that's what was. That's what reality is. Everything else is just a variation on the reality. So we have to go back and we have to change those templates, those imprints, those feelings. Because until we do, we're just pouring dirty coffee into a cup of clean coffee and hoping something better comes out. And what you get is dilution of both. Does that make sense?
Yeah, done.
Yeah. Well, at least you left the cigarette butts out, right? Anybody ever had that experience? So, who has something they'd like to get rid of? Nobody? You guys are good. All right, it is, oh shit. What time are we done? 10? You guys want to take a break and come? No, you want to keep going? All right. Is it okay to be on camera?
Of course.
Come on up, sweetie. I have to ask. All right. You're a little small.
By the way, I'm Phyllis.
Hi, Phyllis. I'm David. It's
Nice
a pleasure.
to
I was
meet you,
about
David.
to ask you that once I had you in the camera shot. You can have the high chair.
Oh, boy.
So I don't usually like to have people's feet dangling, but for this exercise, it's cool. So, a couple of things. Now, the process that we just taught you, where you point to where you feel it, reach out and touch the picture, that's part of a process I call the magic frame. And it's a very good, simple way to begin to reorganize the holograms in your field. I could spend all night talking about the theory, but then you never see the change happen, right? But just the idea of pointing to where you feel it, reaching out and touching the picture changes the way your brain relates to that information. It opens up more neurological pathways and makes you much more neuroplastic. The more you play with the pictures, the more plastic the neurology becomes. That's one of the reasons why this is a good preparatory exercise for anything. Find a good feeling, find the picture, and just play. Because the more you do it, the more warmed up the nervous system becomes and the easier it is to change. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's why I asked, how many people can feel good for no friggin' reason? Now you can. Right? If you do it too much, you might not leave the house. So just be careful. So what was your name again?
Phyllis.
Phyllis.
Mm-hmm.
You have something you want to get rid of?
Yes.
Okay. Is it something you feel comfortable talking about?
Yes.
Okay, why don't you tell me what you got?
I am losing weight.
Okay.
And feel a failure when I don't.
You feel a failure when you don't? Mm-hmm. Okay. And what would you like to feel instead?
I would like to feel okay with it. I would
feel okay with it?
Still like to love myself, recognize the progress I'm making, and keep going forward.
Okay.
Instead of beating myself up because it didn't work that week.
Oh, you're beating yourself up?
Oh, big time.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. This might get a little bit more comprehensive than I was going to show, but we're going to do this for Phyllis, okay? You ever been in trance?
I have not.
You've never been in trance. Do you
No,
know? Can
not
you
even
pretend?
at the Del Mar Fair.
Not even at the Del Mar Fair? Can you pretend to be in trance?
Yes.
All right. I want you to close your eyes for me.
All right.
Take a deep breath in. Let that breath out with a sigh. Deeper and deeper with every breath you take and every beat of your heart. Now, Phyllis, I want you to remember something, that no matter where we go and what happens, you're completely safe. And you don't have to reveal anything you don't want to. Everything can take place inside the privacy of your own mind. Is that okay?
Yes.
In a moment, Phyllis, not yet, but in just a moment, I'm going to ask you to use that amazing imagination of yours. And I'd like you to imagine, if you would, the safest, most nurturing, wonderful, protected environment you've ever experienced. Now, some people it's a real location. Some people it's a place that they've actually visited. Other people, that place only exists in their mind, a place that, you know, they have their spirit guides and their guardian angels. I had one student out in London. Her idea of a safe place was 5 miles underground in a nuclear fallout shelter surrounded by lead and concrete, and there was only enough room in the damn place for her. Phyllis, whatever your safe place is and how it represents itself to you, I just want you to go there in your imagination. Can you do that?
Yes.
I want you to see what you see and hear what you hear and feel what you feel. And when you're fully in that space, just nod your head to let me know. Perfect. Now in a moment, not yet, but in just a moment, I'm going to ask you to pay attention to something interesting. There's a feeling that you get when you're in your safe place, isn't there?
Yes.
And there's a place in your body where that feeling lives. First impression, point to where you feel it.
First.
That's right. Right there. That's perfect. Now I want you to notice that there's a color, or maybe a series of colors connected to that feeling. What's the color of first impression?
Gold.
That's right.
From the 60s.
That's perfect. I love gold. You see, half my wardrobe is gold. Now here's where it gets really cool. I want you to imagine a big ball of that golden energy floating above your head. In fact, in your safe place, I'd like you to use that amazing imagination of yours and imagine that the entire place, if it's a building from floor to ceiling, from wall to wall, is completely filled with that wonderful, beautiful golden energy. Excellent. And then when you're ready, I want you to breathe that golden energy through your entire body, from the top of your head to the tips of your toes, and just breathe it. Let it flow. Take all the time you need to really fill yourself up with it. Notice and scan your body. Notice any places of pain, tightness, discomfort, tension, worry, fear, anxiety, any of that less than positive stuff. And since this is an endless, unlimited supply, breathe as much of that energy through those areas as you can, as you want to, and notice what happens. And tell me about it.
I feel very relaxed.
That's right. And just keep breathing. Let it flow. You're doing great. And as your body continues to soak in those wonderful, safe energies, those safe frequencies, another part of your mind may begin to float up out of your body, floating up into that safe energy, right into the very source of it. You may even begin to notice yourself merging completely with that place, like a drop of water merging back into the ocean from which it came. And you may also begin to notice, now it may or may not happen for you, but some people start to get the impression, the intuition, that from this place, Phyllis, anything that you can imagine, anything that you can intend, anything that you can physically act out must become real and true and manifest for you in this physical world. Because all the experts agree that it's the inner world that controls the outer world. And in your inner world, Phyllis, you're the goddess of your universe. And you have the absolute right and the authority and the permission to change anything you want. And I'm going to teach you how to do that. And once I teach you how to do that, you'll be able to do it for yourself forever. For anything you want, anything you need. If you can point to it, you'll change it. Now there's a feeling you've been having, a feeling you don't like. Or maybe you just want to change. A feeling that has everything to do with why you're here today. And I'd like you to notice that there's a place in your body where that feeling lives, and I'd like you to point to it for me. First impression. You're doing great.
That one's hard because it's out there.
It's out there? Reach out and touch it for me.
It's right there.
Yeah, trace the edges of it with both of your hands so you know how big it is. Tell me about that shape.
It is a human.
It's a human? Cool. And is it all outside of your body? Okay. Does it have a color?
Black.
Black. And does it have a weight, temperature, or texture?
It's just skinny and tall.
As you focus on that skinny, tall human who's black and is out in front of you, I want you to use your mind's eye for me. I want you to travel into the center of that black, tiny human that's out in front of you. till you find the very center of it. That's right. And I want you to pass through the center of it, like a thread passing through the eye of a needle. I want you to follow that thread all the way back in time to the very first scene, situation, or event that is the point of origin of that tall, skinny black person that's out in front of you. And when you get there, the point of origin of it, and when you get there, I just want you to nod your head to let me know. Excellent. I'm going to ask you a series of questions. Just answer with your first impression. Are you inside or outside?
Outside.
Alone or with people?
With people.
Daytime or nighttime?
Daytime.
Look at your hands in that scene. Are they big girl hands, little girl hands, or somewhere in between?
Little girl hands.
Really? Excellent. Look at your feet. Are you wearing shoes or are you barefoot?
Socks and shoes.
Socks and shoes. Excellent. Look around you. Give me a report and tell me what's happening.
I have family around me. We're watching an old TV set.
An old TV set. And then what happens?
It's daytime.
It's daytime.
And then the negative person comes in the room.
Oh, the negative person comes in the room. And then what happens?
They start yelling at us.
They start yelling at you. When they start yelling at you, Phyllis, what happens then?
Everybody gets quiet.
Everybody gets quiet.
And the TV goes off.
The TV goes off. And when the TV goes off, what happens then?
You get sad.
You get sad. Yeah. When you get sad, Phyllis, what happens then?
Cry.
You cry.
And you think and you feel bad.
And you feel bad.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. I'm going to ask your unconscious mind to give me answer a question real quick right now, because I want to make sure you get everything you deserve instead of this stuff. Is that okay?
Okay.
If your unconscious mind could sort through all of your memories and find every version of yourself that had a similar experience to this moment and take them all to your safe place, how many would there be, first impression?
Not too many.
Yeah? Can you give me a number?
Maybe 5.
Perfect. Here's what I'd like you to do, Phyllis. I'd like you to ask your unconscious mind to go through your memories and find those versions of yourself that need to go to that safe place, that deserve and want to go to that safe place, and move them all there. And I want you to notice the feelings in your body shift and change as your unconscious mind moves those versions of yourself into that place. And when they're all there, take all the time you need. And when you know they're all there, just nod your head to let me know. Are you there?
Okay.
Perfect. Now, this is where it gets really cool. First thing I want you to do when they're all there is I want you to take your safe energy and I want you to breathe it through all of them and notice what happens. Tell me about it. Oh, they turn to dust. They turn to dust? Is that a good thing?
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Now, whoever's left in that place, there's some stuff that that mean person and other people like that have pushed on you and forced you to carry, kind of like karma. You know, you familiar with the term karma?
Yes.
Now, in the world according to David, we have this special forces unit I call the Karma Police.
Mm.
And their job is to come in and joyfully and playfully and skillfully extract all of that crap that other people installed in you and projected on you and made you carry for all those years. Stuff that had nothing to do with you and everything to do with them.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to notice the feelings in your body shift and change as the Karma Police, in whatever form they take, come in and they pull out all that stuff.
Yeah, those people are stupid.
Yeah. If you could imagine all that stuff taken out of you and piled in a big old pile way off in the distance, how big would that pile be?
Pretty big.
Pretty damn big,
That's
that's right. Now I want you to watch all that stuff flying out, feel that stuff flying out, feel that pile getting bigger and bigger way off in the distance, and then right next to them are all, like a police lineup, are all the people that contributed to it.
Oh.
And what happens next is really interesting, because as soon as that pile is full size, the Karma Police go into phase 2. And this can either be very cathartic or a lot of fun, because what happens next is the Karma Police begin delivering. They go into that pile, they grab handfuls of it or big quantities of it, and they deliver it back to the person who generated it in the first place in the most karmically appropriate way possible. If they were mean, they get it back in a mean way. If they were nice about it, they get it back in a nice way. The way that gives you the greatest sense of fulfillment, validation, and vindication. The way that gives you the greatest sense of inner peace and closure. I just want you to notice that process taking place. Allow it to run its course completely. Notice the feelings in your body shifting and changing as that happens. And when you know it's done, just nod your head to let me know. Perfect. As you look at what's left of that big old pile, if anything, How much is left, and of what's left, how much of it is actually yours?
It's just dust.
Just dust. What do you want to do with that dust? Do you want to make it blow away or burn it up? Or
Blow away.
That's right. Now, as you look at the remaining memories of yourself, all cleansed and healed and happy in that safe place, how many of them are there?
None.
None? Perfect. So it's just you in the safe place now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's what I want you to do. Remember that in this place, Phyllis, everything's allowed. And I mean everything. I had one little girl, when we went through her clearing process, all she wanted was ice cream and hugs. And she was 35, but the little girl wanted ice cream and hugs. So I said, well, I want you to make the best alternate reality movie ever. We gave her a very special kind of ice cream in a very special reality. She could eat as much as she wants for as long as she wants, and she'd never get sick, and she'd never gain weight, and she'd never lose a tooth, and an infinite supply of hugs.
Aww.
So when I say everything's allowed, Phyllis,
Mm-hmm.
I mean everything. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to create an alternate reality movie. And I want you to go as far back into your life as you need to go, all the way from the point of conception up to now if you want to. And I want you to script and write out and create the perfect life. If you had written the script and the actors had, and you had chosen the actors and they had played their roles to perfection, that gave you every experience, every quality, every resource, everything that would make you the happiest little camper on the planet every day for the rest of your life, that's what I want from you. And I want you to create that movie, see what you see, hear what you hear, feel what you feel, full dimensional. And when it's perfect, crystal clear in every way, I want you to watch it. Not once, not twice, but over and over and over again, hundreds of times at the speed of thought. Each repetition 10 times stronger, 10 times more powerful, 10 times more real, until it becomes more real than any experience you've ever had. And it overwrites every experience you've ever had. And just keep watching it and watching it. And notice as you do, there's a feeling or a set of feelings in your body connected to that alternate reality movie, isn't there? Mm-hmm. And there's a set of colors connected to those feelings. True or not true?
True.
What are those colors, Phyllis?
They're bright.
Yeah.
Neon.
Bright neon. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to take all those bright neon colors. I want you to breathe through every level of your mind, body, and soul, and especially through that black, slender figurine out in front of you, and notice what happens.
That's not there anymore.
It's not there anymore. Try to bring it back. Notice what happens instead.
You can't.
Oh. Just keep breathing those frequencies in until it's impossible to turn off. And when you know you've got it, try to turn it off and notice what happens instead. When you're ready to bring all this into reality, complete in expression with you, allow your eyes to open and notice how different you feel and the world looks.
I can't do anything wrong.
Hey! Give her a big round of applause. Well done.
Thank you.
You guys have any questions for this lovely lady who was not hypnotized? Yeah, it works like that. How long did that take? How long have you had that, Phyllis? The thing that's gone, how? How long have you had it?
Since I was a child.
Oh.
I didn't know it though.
Yeah. In a very literal sense. Okay, and it just gets a very deep well. By the way, it's still changing. There's changes that happen right away, and then there's changes that happen as a result of the changes. It's not uncommon for people to actually break out in a sweat.
I was sweating.
Yeah. When
Why
people,
is that?
the neurology is resetting itself at a very, very deep physiological level as well as a psycho-emotional one. It's holistic. So every part of you, from the subtlest vibrational aspects to the endocrine system to the organs themselves, the acupuncture meridians, it's all involved. Right? This is what happens when the entire system is engaged. Okay? Now, that was a much more complex intervention. But it starts with point to where you feel it. Find the picture. We actually did that, didn't we? Reach out and touch the picture because the thing she had was actually outside of her. That's part of the language of the neurology. Size, shape, location have meaning. Meaning to the neurology. It's part of the alphabet. that the neurology runs on. We just take them as phenomena or attributes, but they're not. Every attribute has a neurological significance. Does that make sense? How many people here have something they would like to change? How many are lying to me? Because only the front row raised their hands. Right? Remember, if you want to manifest things, you have to clear your energy field. These objects that we point to and we reach out and we touch, your neurology interprets them as solid objects. They have as much reality to it as this table. What's going on with you two? I can see that. Salt and pepper over here. All right. So you can do this to install things that you want, but it's always a good idea. It's always a good idea to clean up the things holding you back first.
I've got this tape running.
Oh yeah.
About being lonely.
Being lonely.
Yeah.
How long you had that?
Consciously for like the last month.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how about unconsciously?
All my life.
All your life. Okay. Is it okay to get rid of it?
Yeah.
She's like, oh shit. I opened my mouth.
Yeah, that wasn't very convincing.
Yeah. Now that's actually one of the things I pay attention to. When I ask somebody, I ask that question for a very specific reason. The unconscious mind always answers first, but not always verbally. And so when I ask that question, I'm looking at what your body does. If I see this moment of the startle response, that tells me what I need to know right there, that there's something else that needs to be cleared first. Your body wants you to be happy. But if it has to choose between keeping you safe and keeping you happy, guess what it'll choose? Because safety equals familiar. Right? That's the rub. Right? So there's hypnotic principles in here, but there's a vibrational overlay to this that gives us a much broader understanding of how the system actually creates our experience. NLP gave us the hint back in the 70s, and it was cutting edge, and it still is in many cases. But there's a deeper phenomenon, there's a deeper reality to these things that NLP discovered and led us to. So, let's see. Did I give anybody a little piece that will intrigue them? Yeah. Yes, have some, right? It's like sipping from a frickin' fire hose, I know. How about that idea of self-fulfilling prophecies? Did we kind of cover that whole idea? And how to create a better one? Do you think what Phyllis has is a self-fulfilling prophecy now? Yeah. All of them self-fulfilling prophecies are memory recordings encapsulated holographically within the neurology on an endless loop. But the thing we need to understand about them is that they are in fact holographic. They're a hologram of your consciousness, which means on a very literal level, everything that you knew up to that point of trauma, when the system created that code, it knows. And nothing else beyond that.
What do you mean by hologram?
Do you understand the theory of a hologram?
Sort of, yeah. 3D,
Okay.
whatever.
A hologram is an optical construct where they take a light beam and they split it, and then they shine one side. You could probably explain a hologram better than me, John.
No, you're doing great.
Okay. I will probably get some of it wrong, but here's the idea. When you create a hologram, they split this light beam, they send part of it to an object, the other part goes to a photographic plate, and those beams, when they connect again at the plate, create a three-dimensional image on that plate that if you shine a laser beam or a light beam through it, the entire three-dimensional image is represented, and you can see it from all the different angles. But here's the interesting thing about a hologram and fractals, which is a different concept but similar, is that if I take that hologram and I break it up into pieces, and I shine a light through one piece of that hologram, the entire image is there. It just has lower resolution. Does that make sense? Your consciousness, your totality as a human being is holographic. Okay? So, let me see, maybe I can diagram this a little bit. This goes back to, again, okay, well, I'll just do weird stuff for a while. You guys don't want a break. I was going to give you a 15-minute break and we come back and let you guys zap each other. But no, okay, fine. You just want to see me lecture. Get that look of horror when you actually see them do something. I gotta do that. Yeah, you know. Right. So let's talk about the anatomy of trauma, because that's really what we're talking about. All the things that keep us stuck, we learned. Period. We come into this world with no limits in our mind. We have nothing. We're a blank frickin' hard drive. Everything that holds us back, every resource that we have, we learned. We learned it holographically. But there's a system in place, and this system was really isolated, and it comes from the trauma therapy world, and a lot of it I've learned on my own, but then I went and studied the work of Brent Baum, who created a system called holographic memory resolution, and his work, which is very scholarly and comes specifically from the trauma world, just confirmed everything that I had been theorizing, and he gave me a whole new field of information to study and work from and practice from, and it's brilliant, brilliant stuff, and I highly recommend his work if you're that special kind of stupid, where you want to help you shovel other people's shit all day long. That's a special kind of stupid, I'm sorry. When I first got into this stuff, all I wanted to do was kick butt, get laid, and be cool. Right? Not necessarily in that order. But as you go about solving your own problems, dealing with your own stuff, life and the universe has a very interesting way of bringing you full circle. If you'd told me 15, 20 years ago that I'd be seeing patients 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and that was not on my radar. Right? As we evolve, as we go through these different stages, which you're supposed to do, you're supposed to indulge. So you can't discover the middle ground until you know what the extremes are, ladies and gentlemen. You just hope you don't go to the extreme that you kill yourself and wind up having to do it again in the next life, right? But that's kind of where it started. So in trauma, if this is baseline, right? This is yes, sir.
How do you spell his last name?
B-A-U-M. B-A-U-M. So this is our life, right? This is our timeline. Now every now and then, shit happens, right? These are our emotional highs and lows. And then there's a threshold. This is the limit. So things are going along, and every now and then something breaks that threshold. Right? We'll call this terminal event. Means when you hit this point, you're either dead or you survived. Either way, problem solved. Right? But what's happening is there's a recorder that's running through this whole process. It's your unconscious mind recording the events of your life in a way that's in holographic nature, but for the most part, nothing crazy is happening. But every now and then, you get this spike. And it starts at T-1, or T, depending on how you do it, and then up to T10, which is terminal event. There's this escalation of shock and arousal in the nervous system. Right? At about T9, a mechanism is triggered, the trauma defense mechanism. And literally what happens is, for a fraction of a second, everything goes offline. You ever have your system spontaneously reboot? Like you're in the middle of something else and it just decides to reboot for no reason? Guess where that came from? Right? At T-9 or T9, the system goes offline. Not at T10, which is the worst moment, terminal event. When you regress people to trauma, this comes from Brenton and starting to be validated in my world, the worst moment is never there. The moment just before the worst moment is there. The system goes offline, and the whole complex is sealed in its little pocket dimension. And it's running on an endless loop, and it's stored somewhere in the body. Now, one of two things happens at T10. You either died or you didn't. In which case, the system comes back online, life goes on. Yes?
So, when you say you either died this life or a lifetime ago?
Could be both.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Remember, cellular imprints play a role here because they're holographic.
Yeah. 'Cause I've done some timeline work and that happened where
Yeah.
in the past life.
It's a hologram, and they are passed on, yeah.
So all of the events leading up to the traumatic event, are they associated with the event itself? And so any of those things before that can be linked to anxiety?
Yeah, because remember, what we're talking about is every time this particular process takes place, everything up to T9 and back is encapsulated. Right? And remember, I said your consciousness is holographic and fractal. So this fragment of your consciousness knows everything that you knew up to T9 and nothing beyond it. It doesn't know it's over, which is why PTSD happens. Because something in the environment re-triggers the hologram, you're in the hologram, and it's happening, it's on.
So
Yes.
when you're fully triggered, something brings that back. Are you saying, like previously, that just by changing your body posture,
You can reset the system. You won't necessarily fix the hologram by resetting that.
but you can just
You can
at
break
that
the state.
moment get rebalanced?
You can break the state long enough to exert another type of technique or control. That's why I teach this first. This is your get out of jail free card. If you can get your physiology changed and hold it for at least 2 minutes, you can break anything you're in. Yeah.
So what folks don't realize is that you're running, when you say programs, you're running a bunch of different time loops.
Yeah. Time loops. Because remember, every trauma you've had up to this point is here too.
Right.
And they're all being organized by what? What they have in common.
But those time loops can also be edited.
They are. That's usually why we wind up with tumors and things like that.
No, I said you can edit those.
Oh yeah, that's the whole point of this, is that once we understand there's a vibrational reality to these, certain frequencies are missing, we add those frequencies back, the system reintegrates. The trauma goes away because now the drop has merged back into the ocean and you can heal. You got a question? I already answered it? Okay.
But you can't stop the event from happening, just how you react to it.
You can completely depotentiate the experience.
So a divorce, firing.
Yeah. A lot of times people come in to my clinic and they're getting over a bad breakup. And when I say go back to the first scene, situation, or event that is the source of that feeling, you know where they are? 0 to 7. 8 times out of 10, 0 to 7. You fix it there, it doesn't bother them that much anymore. The further back we go in the human timeline, the more powerful and pervasive and foundational the memories are. Okay? I can shake the floor of this, the third floor of this building, and shake the third floor. Or I can shake the earth and the entire building shakes. Which would be more efficient. Right? Just to use a earthquake metaphor, because we're in California, right? Right? But this is literally, this is how you make a practical understanding and apply this to abundance and law of attraction. The vibrations in your energy, the energy field around you is a vibrational phenomena. And you have a range of vibrational frequencies. And each and every one of those is analogous to a feeling and a color. And as you access the feelings and the colors, which in Hermetics we call correspondences, the more correspondences you tap into, the more aspects of the holographic neurology and the holographic metaphor you activate, the more power and more rapidly you can change it. Now what I did with Felicia was what we call a level 2 intervention. Is that I got the impression that as I was working with her, that this wasn't a once and done thing. So I did what I call a batch release. We brought all the memories that were connected to it, because the unconscious mind knows they're all buried. She knows where all of them are. I call it talking to the boss, right? Because there's only 2 entities in the universe that know where this problem started and who was involved. That's God and your unconscious mind. Now, in California, we have really nice weather and a lot of golf courses. God plays an awful lot of golf. So he doesn't always take my calls. But the unconscious mind is always home, and he or she always knows where we need to go, if you trust it. And that's the problem. We're not taught to trust that other part, because A, nobody told us how to separate a conscious response from an unconscious one. And many times we're at the same level as the problem, which is why we need somebody to guide us. Not always. I put a lot of, how many people are here because of my videos? How many people actually say, wow, almost none of you are here from my videos? Holy shit. Fresh meat! No. Right? I've got I got over 200 videos on YouTube, and they're seminars just like this, where I'm literally pulling people out of the audience and doing changes and things like that. We have over 31,000 subscribers. And I do that because I know for as many people that I see in a day, that there are millions more who will never have the opportunity to work with me, either because they don't want to or because they don't have the resources or whatever. But there are millions and millions of people who want to fix their own shit, which is what most of you are here for. You don't want me to fix your shit. You want to fix your own shit. Then there's that special kind of stupid who wants to go around fixing other people's shit, right? So I created videos and I created opportunities for whatever level of intervention you're looking for. If you want me to work with you and things like that, I'll have a free gift for all of you that I encourage you to take, but it's not mandatory. But this is for you, to give you the tools and the techniques to start driving your own bus. So you can go as far as you can on your own, and then show you where to go when and if you're ready for more, right? So the idea here is point to where you feel it, find the picture, right? Now many times, and this is the simple intervention I want you guys to play with, if you will. Many times when we try to resolve something, if let's say on a 0 to 10 scale, it's got like an 8, and we do a technique and it drops down to like a 2, and it just doesn't go any further, right? It just stops there. More often than not, what you're running into is another safety mechanism that the neurology has. There's a part of your neurology that is designed to preserve lessons. In other words, if you touched a stove when you were 2 and you burned your finger, right? There's a part of you that wants to encode that lesson and keep you from doing that shit again. And the way it will do it is anytime you're in a situation or circumstance where you could possibly do that, you'll get a bad feeling. And there'll usually be a flash of memory. Sometimes you're conscious of that, sometimes you're not, but the feeling is always somewhere, right? Phantom pain is really kind of that way too. I've actually worked with phantom pain and all kinds of crips, and I don't know if you're familiar with compartmentalized regional pain syndrome. It's chronic, it's really bad stuff. I mean, and all of it responds extremely well to this, and the spinning and all the other things you've seen me do. And I invite you to check out the YouTube channel. It's completely free, right? And you'll get lots of cool stuff, okay? But this technique, what you do is you point to where you feel it, you find the picture, you put a big black frame around it, right? And then you white out that image or darken that image out, kind of like on an old school television set. Then using your finger like a stylus on a tablet, you write out the lessons across that screen. Everything that experience had to teach you, so you can keep the lessons and you let the rest go. Shrink it down to the size of a postage stamp and put it behind you where you threw your frisbee, and nail it back there and notice what happens to the feeling. Now the reason I'm giving you that is because many times, especially when it comes to wealth accumulation, comes to law of attraction, abundance, things like that, we've internalized lessons about wealth, about people with money. Now we may have developed those on our own, we may have inherited them from our parents, but regardless of where we got them, if we connect to a pure light source that has all the colors, point to where we feel it, find the hologram, extract the lessons, change the intensity of it, and move it behind us,
Being low.
Yeah, not too much, because I don't want anybody having screaming reactions that I have to fix. It's getting late. Because I can fix it, I just, But again, just stand up for this, because sometimes it's easier to do this standing up. I find that a lot of these somatically engaging processes, if you're on your feet, you tend to get more involvement, more activation of the neurology. So I want you to think of that thing you want to change. Okay? Point to where you feel it. Go with your first impression. Good. Now, reach out and touch the picture connected to that feeling. First impression. Trace the edges of it with both of your hands so you know how big it is. Excellent. Put a big black frame around it. If you're yawning, that's a good sign, by the way. Now feel along the bottom of that frame and you'll notice that there's some dials and knobs and switches. Now a lot of you are probably too young to remember when televisions had like literal dials and knobs and switches instead of touch screens and remotes. But I want you to feel along the bottom of that frame until you find the knob that controls the brightness or the contrast. Turn that all the way to the right until the image whites out completely. Notice how that makes you feel. Turn the image all the way to the left until the image blacks out completely and notice how that makes you feel and decide. Decide which one you like better and leave it there. And then using the index finger of your dominant hand like a stylus on a tablet. Now there were some lessons and some things that this experience had to teach you. I want you to write those lessons in glowing golden letters across that screen so you can keep the lessons and let the rest go. Now here's the best part. You don't even have to know what the hell you're writing. Right? I've had people literally write from both sides of the screen simultaneously. They have no idea. They're just doing squiggles. It's like they're writing Chinese and Hebrew at the same time. Just let the finger go and do its thing. Some people notice interesting sensations and symptoms come up as this happens. Some people just get waves of emotion. Some people laugh. Some people yawn. Some people cry. Some people sweat. Whatever you're feeling, let it happen. It's just the neurology resetting. And just keep writing. The screen will scroll. So you can write as much or as little as you need to. Keep writing until you know it's done. When you know it's done, and only when you know it's done, even though I'm going at a certain pace, you may process faster or slower, take all the time you need to do this properly. As soon as you have the lessons done, and only then, reach up with both of your hands. Beyond the horizon. You know the sound a nail gun makes? Hear that nail gun pounding that shit back there, fixing it back there for all eternity. Notice the process taking place. When you know it's locked back there for all eternity, try to bring it back and notice what happens instead. Take a tour of your body, notice how different you feel. When you know you've got it, allow your eyes to open, look around. What just happened? Have a seat. What just happened? What's your name?
Joyce.
Joyce, what just happened?
Feel a little lighter.
Feel a little lighter?
Yeah.
Very cool, right? That light feeling is literally a lightning feeling, right? The neurology has an organization to it, okay? In NLP, we say the map is not the territory, right? And people say, right. And inside they're going, what the fuck does that mean? Because I did for 20 years. Like, what it means is that the sum total of reality and all the information in it is far too big for us to consciously comprehend. So your neurology creates a map, a facsimile of what it thinks thinks the universe works. And depending on how information rich that map is, we have access or more access or less access to stuff. But the map is not the terrain. And the best part is, and this is the thing they really didn't tell us, is that the terrain is easily more robust to accommodate pretty much any map you impose on it. Some just deliver the result, get you to the destination faster or slower than others. If you understand the metaphor. Right? Sequita, how you doing, sweetie?
Having a moment.
Yeah, let it happen.
Yeah.
Let it come up, let it come out. As I like to say, as you feel it, you reveal it. As you reveal it, you heal it. Solved, dissolved, and resolved from the body. Solved, dissolved, and resolved from the mind for all the right reasons. The human body, the human being, is designed to pass energy and information through it. You are not a human being. You are a human being, which implies you are a process of processes. In Chinese medicine, we say anytime information or energy stops in the body, you have pain, you have illness, you have disease, you have tension. There's a principle there. It's a universal one, right? The things that bother us are the places in our body where we stuck energy, right? And the worst place we can keep it is locked inside. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. So, you said we can look up origins including 0 and 0.
Most of it, yeah.
I see that. And what if we don't remember anything from that?
The body always knows, and we follow the body's somatic address. The feeling location in the body, even if we don't know consciously what's there, we're still accessing the hologram. So we can still deal with it. And many times, because of the unique questioning protocol that we use, we can slowly unlock most of that. There are other techniques that tap into this holographic model. I don't even have to know what you're working on. You don't even have to know consciously. And that's one of the big fallacies in a lot of our talk therapies, is that we believe that before we can work with anything, we have to consciously know what it was. No, you don't. If there's a feeling that you can isolate in your body, you have pretty much all the information you need, give or take a few elements, to change it. Because once you have the feeling, you have access to the sum total of the holographic information that's stored there, which means all the colors, all the feelings, all the temperatures, all the shapes, all the metaphors that are analogous to that information come to a head right there, or wherever that feeling emanates from. So literally, if you can point to it, you can change it. And you can put something else there instead. That's where the generative part comes in. See, not only is, if all we did was learn how to clear our shit, that would be awesome. But we can put good shit in and fine-tune our navigation system to take us where we want to go. To become the person who can be, do, and have those things. Now, most of us are kind of defaulted towards putting that in first. The problem is that the conception, the model of that outcome is informed by all the shit that's holding you back. Right? So by definition, the outcome we're creating is tainted by the shit that's in the way. That's changing how we filter our perceptions. So if you change that stuff first, very often what you want and how you want it and how you perceive it begins to change subtly also. And those things are far more likely to manifest. Does that make sense? Is this useful?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So why is the human body then as kind of storing this energy in the body, you know,
Mhm.
it's a food for the human being? You know,
In my world, we call it a somatic address.
Right, so many of us, yeah. So why is it like inside the body?
Why is it inside the body?
Yeah.
You'd have to ask God. I don't know. Well, actually, Felicia's wasn't. The good feelings, her safety feelings, they were right here, right? The gold. But when she accessed the thing that she wanted to change, it was out here. It doesn't really matter where it's at. It's how you relate to it that's important. This is why creating a defined set system and imposing it on everybody, well, you get about 50%, if that. But it's just much more easier when I have her point to a feeling she wants more of and give me a color, and she says blue, but I know the heart colors are green and pink. No, that's wrong, because that's what we do, right? We ask somebody what their color is, it doesn't match the system we were taught, and all of a sudden they're wrong or that system is. Well, I'm more highly invested in that than you are, and I am in you, so you must be wrong. Fuck that. Whatever a person gives you, you have to work within their holographic metaphors, their worldview. They're never wrong.
So if you place then that stuff, let's say in kidneys or in
Mhm.
the body, is it more likely you would develop a disease, manifest a
Yeah.
disease over this?
In fact, if anybody's familiar with Louise Hay's work,
Exactly. Yeah,
Louise is brilliant,
independence.
and and clinically, I don't think she's been wrong yet. In clinical experience, when I've regressed people, and more often than not, she's in the ballpark. You know, so I wouldn't take her literally, but as a guide. And when you start working with people, notice what patterns start to arise, and you'll find out that more often than not, There's a definite pattern. And it's the patterns and the ability to recognize those patterns that are what's true in this universe. Everything else changes, but the patterns keep emerging at different levels of reality.
So true.
And once you learn to see the patterns, that's the law of analogy, by the way. That's the law of analogy. And that's what NLP and Oriental medicine and the martial arts that I study, which I have a 9th degree black belt in the martial arts, and the art that I specialize in is an energy-based martial art that teaches people how to defend themselves using the acupuncture points and meridians to make them do weird things, like wet themselves. And I would never do that, but it beats killing them, I guess. But my point is I spent a lot of time in this field, in this world, right? Putting a lot of things together for me. As altruistic as I may seem, I did not create this shit for you. Right? I had my own problems, I had my own shit I wanted to deal with, and I just was relentless in my pursuit of finding ways to stop suffering and to get the things I wanted in life. It turns out other people want that too. So here I am. Right? So we have about half an hour left. Where do you want to go next? It's your meetup. Tell me what you want. Not a fucking clue. Is this fun? Is this useful?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. How many people noticed a profound change when they moved that shit behind them? All right. Obviously, right? And what you're seeing with Sequita, I don't know how many were paying attention, but what you saw was an emotional detox. It was an emotional release of the shit that was stored in the body because of where that hologram was in relation to her spinal cord. Okay. I'll give you one last thing that you can play with. I call this particular process. I call it the control panel, and I need to give you some background on it before. Away with you! All right. So let me just put. Shit, that didn't work either. Maybe I'll just pretend. Okay. Exit draw. All right, that's good enough. Where's my erase? Was there an erase? I know there was an erase somewhere. There we go. We'll just erase this. Okay, good. So going back to my draw, the human body radiates an electromagnetic field that is measurable with instruments, 8 feet in diameter from the human body. If we take liberties with that field and we impose a torus shape. You guys know what a torus is? It's like a donut. If you haven't, you'll see it eventually. If we divide the human being, this is the frontal plane. This is the posterior plane. This is the spinal cord. Okay? Anything in the frontal plane is active and open. Think about your desktop at home on your computer. Now, if you've ever seen my desktops, you know that you can't actually see the desktop because there's files everywhere, right? And if you've ever had a bunch of files open at the same time, you know that some files are bigger, some files are smaller, some are really, really up close, and they hide things behind them. That sound familiar? Everything in your frontal plane is an active, open file, a program that's running. And they're layered vibrationally on top of each other. Because they're vibrational, they don't take up any space, so you can have an infinite amount of information in the same area. But the minute you point to a feeling in the body, you target a particular file, that one pops to the top. Kind of like your computer. Right? And then you can work with it. Most people's forward frontal planes, frontal hemispheres, are completely occluded with shit. Okay? There's stuff that's in your face, there's stuff that's at a distance. You get somebody who suffers from chronic anxiety, depression, worry, fear, phobias. Their pictures are this close and they're this fucking big. Without fail. Without fail. Every now and then you'll find an exception that proves the rule, but clinically this is how it works. When you got someone who's completely overwhelmed by an experience, the picture is too big and it's too close to the core of the body. The first thing you want to do besides changing their posture is point to where they feel it, find the picture, and move it. I had you guys do that, didn't I? I had you find a feeling, reach out and touch it, make it bigger. What happened? The feeling got more intense. True or not true? Had you pull it closer to your body? What happened? Had you put yourself in it? What happened? It got even more intense. Probably even felt like you were having it again for some of you, right? This is what's going on. This is two components of the holographic nature of the nervous system. There's tons more information in there, but you won't get it unless you ask for it. That's the magic of this system and your conscious mind. Your conscious mind is like a spotlight, a little pen light in a dark room. Right? You ask for a certain piece of information, the unconscious mind will spit it up, the conscious mind goes, oh, there it is, and it misses everything else. Because that's how it works. It's spotlight awareness. In these processes, we're utilizing the conscious mind. We're utilizing the critical faculty. That part that hypnotists are trained to send out for pizza, we're reintegrating back into the process, so all of you is working holographically. This is your holographic control panel. Everything in the front of you is open and active, whether you're aware of it consciously or not. It's using energy, it's taking up space, it's using resources. Everything in the posterior quadrant is done and over. It's like your taxes. Anybody here do taxes? How many people here admit to not doing taxes? You're recording this, you know. Right. You're foreign. In the United States and many other countries, we have this thing called income tax. And after every year, we have this big box of stuff. Usually we call these files and receipts. And every so often we have to sit down, a large container of alcohol, maybe some bandages for our butt, and we have to sort through all this stuff, and we have to tabulate it and organize it, and then we have to write the numbers down. And then we have to write the check. And we finally get through it. Half the bottle's gone. Sign the check, there goes the other half. We send that shit off. And we're done. Except for this big box of stuff that the government says I have to keep. But I have no use for it. It's useless, but I have to keep it. So what do? I have to find a place to put it. A place, leave the country. I have to find a place where for all intents and purposes it's out of the way, it's not going to bother me, but if I ever need to, if the people knock on my door and say, hey, you missed a spot. What's this? Drugs for your dog's existential crisis. What the hell is this? Right? And I have to go find it. But for all intents and purposes, it's done. That's your posterior hemisphere. That location comes out in your language. That truth comes out in your language. You'll hear it when people say, I just can't get past this. I need to put this behind me. I have to get over this.
Brings me down.
Right? It's literal. Which is all we did. We took the stuff that should have been closed, edited it as we needed to, and refiled it in the place where the shit's done. Over. Now, if you need to go back and find it, it's there. But for all intents and purposes, it's done. We don't need to do it. We don't need to worry about it anymore. It's not using any resources.
You said sometimes it comes back in fragments.
Not usually with this. Holographically, usually this will be part of a much more comprehensive intervention. But for many things, this is enough.
So this is conceptual. This isn't actual physical.
Oh, I can do this with physical pain. I can do this with tumors. I can do this with everything.
Well, I'm just wondering, like, for example, if you were sitting here like this and I could feel somebody staring at me from behind, that's kind of saying that person behind me is in the current. And my
perception is in the current.
Well, when you say conceptual, we get the idea that it's only imaginary,
Right,
and it's
yeah.
not a literal reality.
Right.
I don't think of this as just an imaginary reality. I think of this as a literal vibrational orientation and filing cabinet.
Right.
Right? And I find that that holds water. Now, whether you just look at these as imaginary constructs, it'll still work. It'll still work, whether you believe in energy as a phenomena or not. It'll still work. That's the beauty of it. I happen to embrace the idea that there's an energetic vibrational reality phenomena connected to the imagery that I'm perceiving, the metaphors I'm creating. But they're all just interpretations of energy, information encoded in a vibrational matrix. But one thing has to be true. If the body is a result of the energies that make it up, and the experiences that we have are a result of the information encoded in the energy, then by definition, that energy must be encoded in a language the neurology understands. And if that's true, what is that language? Well, that language is size, shape, location, color. Everything that we consider an attribute has neurological meaning. It tells the neurology how to generate an experience, which is analogous to a vibrational signature, which is holographic in nature. And if you can access one piece of the hologram, you can access all of it. Does that make sense? Heavy shit. But it's fun. But here's the best part. If you can point to it, you can change it.
What if you can't point to it?
Then you don't have a problem. Think about it. Think about it. How many people here have something that's bothering them that they don't feel? Yes, sir.
When you asked me to point to somewhere or had something I wanted to change, I couldn't think of any.
It's all right. Watch his gestures. Because the hands will always go where it is, even though they're not conscious of it. This is the other thing you need to understand, is your hands beside your eyes take up more bandwidth and real estate in the brain than any other part of you. If you ever look at a homunculus, which is a diagram that shows the neurological layout of the hands to the brain, hands are everywhere. So when people talk about, you'll see this now. Don't believe me. Go out, watch humans in their natural environment and interact with them and watch what they do. Don't just pay attention to what they say. Watch what they do. They'll say, I have this problem and I can't seem to get past it. And I don't know what it is. I wish I could find it.
It's right in front of them.
It's right fucking there.
That's funny.
The hands will always go to the spatial location where the information is stored. From there, all you want to do is somatically bridge it to the feeling state connected to it.
It's interesting.
Then you ask him for a color, and now you've got 3 cortexes of the brain active. And the more information you ask for, the more the brain lights up like a Christmas tree. Yes?
So if it's something like a generalized anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
you can't pinpoint exactly what's triggered the thought or...
Look at her hands.
I see it, yeah, I'm watching it again.
But you can feel it?
See the direction it's moving?
Yeah, and...
So grab it.
And, yeah.
Slowly spin it the opposite way. Notice what happens.
Out. Yeah.
How about that?
Wow.
That's how literal your body is.
That's why you asked Phyllis about her hands when she was visualizing where she was.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the easiest to retrieve.
Yep.
I didn't want to believe, when I touched my body, I didn't want to believe that's where it was, but I went there.
I know.
And I was thinking, oh, this can't be it, but that's where I went.
I know.
It's a perfect example of the unconscious mind talking to you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge, ladies and gentlemen. Milton Erickson, a very famous hypnotist, said clients will be your clients because they're out of rapport with their unconscious mind. This means they're not communicating because you don't understand the language. Okay?
Can I ask a question?
You can ask anything you like.
Thank you. I have a fear, my question is about law of attraction, and I have very bright imagination, and I almost always, or very often when I drive a car, I imagine the car accident with all these feelings, sounds, like crash, metal crash, this bomb signals, everything. People screaming. This very bright picture in my head, and
very bright picture in your head.
Very bright picture in my head, and I'm afraid that my imagination will attract this situation in my real life because it's. I try to get rid of it. I try to somehow to make it disappear, but it's very often it pops up. It's just occasionally kind of pop up in my or another scary pictures about my child or something which scares me, and it becomes very alive.
How big is her picture?
Huge. Huge.
Where is it?
Real close. Pictures become
Where's her picture? It's right in front of her. How big is it, Sequita?
It's huge.
It's this big.
Yeah.
So if I take this picture and I move it back here, how does that feel? Okay. Can you actually do that? Yes.
Wow.
Try to bring it back. Notice what happens instead.
It actually can be back.
As strong or less strong?
Less strong.
Perfect. Reach up with both of your hands. Find the edges of it.
So
You just found it. You just right there. Yeah. Trace the edges of it with both of your hands so you know how big it is. Yeah, you got it. Now, is there any reason why you might want to keep this?
No reason. It's just.
Okay, put a big black frame around it. Yeah, good. Now feel along the edges. Notice that there's some knobs. One controls the brightness, one controls the contrast, one controls the vertical hold. Find the brightness knob. Turn it all the way to the right until the image whites out completely, and notice how that makes you feel, Irina.
Better.
Turn it all the way to the left until the image blacks out completely. Notice how that makes you feel. Which one do you like better?
Black.
Okay, black it out completely. Now, using the index finger of your dominant hand like a stylus on a tablet, there were some lessons that this experience had to teach you. I want you to write those lessons across that screen.
Drive safely.
Yeah. So you can keep the lessons but let the rest go, and just keep writing until all the feelings, all the lessons that need to be kept are on that screen. And just keep going. When you know it's done, just nod your head to let me know. Shrink it down to the size of a postage stamp, even smaller. Float it up over the top of your head, all the way back behind the horizon. Now you know the sound a nail gun makes? Hear it nailed back there. Nailed back there for all eternity. When you know it's nailed back there for all eternity, try to bring it back and notice what happens instead. Done, right?
Thank you.
Big round of applause for her. There's always a fear it's going to come back. That's a different issue. Yeah.
I think the key thing she said was that she keeps trying to forget about it.
Yeah.
Our brains don't work.
That's exactly what your brain is trying to prevent.
Yeah. So
It's afraid if you forget it, you're going to do this shit again.
Yeah.
So it needs to know. See, it doesn't trust you either.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're the dipshit that let it happen in the first place. Right? So what's the neurology trying to do? It's saying, look, I'm going to keep reminding you about this until you convince me you've learned this and it's not going to happen again. And the neurology doesn't usually come to stock with a process specifically for extracting lessons. It's like a big soup. Everything's integrated together. Right? And so this particular process is extremely relevant to law of attraction because more often than not, there's a reason we're holding ourselves back from the abundance. And there's usually a safety issue involved. There's usually a safety issue involved. So we need to extract that so we can let the rest go. Because the only way the neurology knows to keep your attention is by generating a feeling. Right? So once you extract the information and you've put it in the place where it knows it's retrievable and it'll be there, the neurology's happy to let that other shit go. It's an all or nothing scenario. You either take all of it or you extract that one piece, so I will let the rest go. Does that make sense? Yeah. So one of the things you might, yes, Felicia.
Why do you make the screen white or black?
Because it's opaque. I've had people turn it brown. Blue, pink, doesn't really matter. I do all kinds of really cool things with the color of that frame in more advanced applications, but for right now, entry-level stuff that you can just zap stuff very episodically, which is really what this is, right? Single session stuff that's been just bothering you, keeps coming back. the magic frame is a really, really good technique. You can use the same process to put stuff out here that you want more of or you want to be magnetized towards. Right? We don't have time to go into that.
Yeah, when is that?
Right after this one.
Well, think about something you want. Okay? Think about something you want. Notice where in your body you feel it. Now imagine that floating somewhere in the space around you is a picture that represents that experience or that feeling. Reach out and touch it. Trace the edges of it with both of your hands so you know how big it is. Now, anybody here ever drive? You know how you have a windshield, you can see through the windshield? I want you to imagine writing all the lessons why you deserve this thing and why it's going to happen and why it's good for you to have across that screen in glowing golden letters. And I want you to take it and make it as big as you can stand it, like a panorama, and put it out in front of you like a windshield so that no matter where you go or what you do, you always see the world through that filter. And notice what happens to the feelings in your body. Now, you may notice that there's a color connected to those feelings in your body. You may want to put a big, bright frame of that color around that windshield. Maybe even tint it that color a little bit. And just for fun, reach out and grab that windshield and the frame, lift it up over your head, pull it down through your entire body over and over and over again, and notice what happens. Notice any places of tightness or tension or resistance becoming less as you pass that frame through your body over and over and over again, till it's impossible to be any other way. And when you know you've got it, put that frame back out in front of you, breathe those colors through your entire body, and lock it in. And when you know you've got that, try to turn it off and notice what happens instead. You're welcome. Can it really be that fast? You tell me. When the system works holistically and synergistically, all the parts doing their job, magic happens. But it's a magic that we can explain. But does that make it any less magical? No. Now, for everybody who came out tonight, especially all you new people, I have a free gift for sitting through my long-winded dissertation on stuff. Usually to walk in, you guys know I see clients, and that's okay. I also teach trainings. I offer something for everybody at every level. But tonight is a free gift for everybody. Everybody who came out tonight who's interested and wants to, I have a free gift. Normally to walk into my room and work with me, it's $175 an hour, and that rate's going to go up real soon. For everybody who came out tonight, I'd like to offer you all a free gift, besides the cool little notepads you handed back in. Everybody who came out tonight gets a free 30-minute consultation with me. And I don't take everybody as a client. Okay, I'm very, very particular about who I take on. During the consultation, we'll discuss anything that you want to discuss. If you have questions, you just want to pick my brain, go for it. Michelle will tell you, right? If you have something you think I might be able to help you with, we'll discuss your case, we'll evaluate the fit between your methods and my methods and your issues or the things you want to discover. If you're a fit, we'll discuss strategies and tactics for helping you get those situations resolved in the shortest amount of time possible. If I can help you, I'll tell you. If I can't help you, I'll tell you that too. Because it does me no good to waste your time and money or my time if there's not a fit. No one's going to high pressure you. This is not what I do. Okay? But what I will do is if I can't help you, if it's just not a fit for whatever reason, I will point you towards resources that I think might be helpful for you. Okay? That's my gift. All you need to do is go out as you leave tonight, go and circle your name, put a little star behind it or next to it so I know. Make sure your contact information is legible. No, don't write like me. Okay? My staff will reach out to you. We've only got like 10 or 15 slots. Okay? They fill up, and we have a waiting list now. So, you know, don't wait. You know, that's my gift to you. You guys are more than welcome to drink as much coffee and eat as much chocolate as humanly possible, because I don't want to take it home, and I do weight loss. But I actually have it down to a science. I know what flavor chocolate you will eat first, and second, and third. You will eat the dark chocolate first. Then you'll eat the white chocolate. And then you'll leave the white chocolate for me, or the milk chocolate for me. Right? So that being said, thank you all for coming. Hope you had a good time. If you had a good time, post good things to the meetup. If you didn't have a good time, post to somebody else's meetup. I'd like to thank Troy for inviting his group out tonight. I hope we see you again. Thank you very much. God bless.